Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Hey, Gumby. Hey, Samantha. Happy Wednesday. Oh, yeah. Time to open the Jocko. Oh, Gubby, I barely caught any of the John Hammond live stream because I was on a call with a coworker. We were working on a project. Thanks, Gumby. All right, let's get. I'm just pulling up the news stories I had bookmarked for today. We got another banger from Checkpoint. Can't wait to see what this blog says. I'll have to see if I can find time to go through it because it looked like he was doing some interesting stuff with open code. And so I definitely want to go check it out. But also, he was streaming for like 4 hours, man. It's a lot to go watch. What have we got here? Oh, this is funny. All right, let's kick it off. All right, there we go. I managed to actually have a little bit of time to set everything up ahead of time. But what's up, everyone? I hope you're all having an absolutely wonderful Wednesday. I've had a pretty chill week. Been able to just work on some dev stuff at work. Found out I got a new pen test coming up in 2 weeks, which will be a weird one. It's going to be a bit off the cuff, but it'll be fun. So, other than that, had a pretty chill day. We're just preparing for potential snowpocalypse 2026 here in Texas. I think the last one we had, when was that? I'm trying to remember. I think it was maybe 2021. About then. Don't think it was 2020. Maybe it was 2020. I don't remember. But it's been a minute. We're kind of overdue for our snowpack. I don't think it's going to really be snowpocalypse-ish. At least not in my neck of the woods. I'm on the south side of Dallas. So all that stuff coming in from the north, it just gets beat down as it comes through the Metroplex. Let's see. All right. I got the Bad Sector Labs blog pulled up for some other stuff I want to talk about later. But let's go. I like that. Claude code execution. Actually, let's go look at something real quick here. So, which one was the one I was looking at? So I had a couple of good ones kind of picked out. Oh yeah, this one I want to reject. I want to go take a look at. Which is, why is everything else scaling on this website except the header? There we go. This one, Doomsday for Commercial Data Breach Brokers. Now, let's see, what else we got on the docket here? Oh, this was one that we didn't get to last week. On the coming industrialization of exploit generation with LLMs. Simulate guys came up with a new Kerberos, I'd say not a new, but an explanation of Kerberos relay by abusing CNAME DNS records. That one thought was pretty cool. Let's see here. What is this? Oh, this is the checkpoint blog that after the last one, we just kind of shredded. I'm really looking forward to this one. I might be a tad bit salty. That's all right. We're going to figure it out. And then I got a new one just today from my bro Rich. The merch. Oh, it's got his picture. Look at that. Oh, that's my buddy Rich. He's jealous that my beard has outbearded him. But this is my good buddy. He's awesome, dude. Just a phenomenal hacker and bug bounty guy. Not really bug bounty guy, but like vulnerability researcher. He was doing this long before bug bounties became a thing. He's actually gotten a couple of really good ones too. All right, let's see here. So he sent me this. He had a RCE in, what was this called? AppRise SDK. And so we'll take a look at that one too. In fact, why don't we just kick it off with this one? Because I love Rich. We'll put him first up in front. So I've never heard of this. AppRise server augment injection RCE. So the Stratascale Cybersecurity Research Unit, the crew, has uncovered an augment injection RCE vulnerability in AppRise's HTML to PDF module. Let's go take a look at it. So the HTML to PDF module is an optional add-in for the AppRise SDK. that can be used to convert HTML content into a PDF. And the API also supports converting HTML files, URLs. Oh no, I see where that's going. HTML files, URLs, and HTML strings, as well as generating PDFs from an optional table of contents and custom defining the order. And so the Stratoscale Cybersecurity Research Unit, the crew, has discovered an augment injection RCE vulnerability in that SDK. Let's see. So what did they hear? Tactical workaround. Actually, here, I don't care about the workaround. I care about the walkthrough. All right, fine. We'll read the workaround. So a simple workaround to prevent exploitations to confirm that data sent to the PDF conversion function is strictly sanitized. So the value cannot be interpreted by HTML to PDF module as a command line argument. Heh. They just passed stuff to it. Anyway, let's look at this. So the HTML to PDF module provides a simple API for the most common programming languages that converts HTML into a PDF. So for example, the following Python code sample passes a raw HTML string to the insert from history function and calls insert from URL function to download HTML from a web server, and the HTML is then transformed into a PDF via the convert function. Bam. Let's see. And so here's a quick example here. So we see doc is that PDF doc. We initialize the converter. Converter takes in some HTML string, or we can take it from a web page and then bam, convert it down. So the interesting part is that what happens under the hood, the HTML data is processed through a headless Chromium to perform that conversion. So when a URL is sent, it's also passed to the headless Chromium as a command line argument. As soon as this advisory up here said, it can take in URLs. When it said HTML files, I'm like, okay, possibly fun. As soon as it said URLs, I'm like, mega fun. Mega fun. Mega fun gonna be had. Let's see. All right, so back to it. Yeah, so it passes this argument, the URL which is sent to the headless Chromium as a command line argument. So they're probably doing command line injection. So the vulnerability is exploitable if the calling application does not strictly sanitize and enforce the format of the URL. Chromium supports several command line arguments that can be executed. They can be used to execute arbitrary commands, and a crafted string passed to that insert from URL function can result in command line execution from an application user. Yeah, no kidding. So what were the steps to reproduce here? I just want to see what it was doing. So you can pass in the following URL function and save the PDF file. So when processing the module, the application executes the headless Chromium in the background. Oh, that's funny. Oh, because he's setting a render command prefix. Nice. Nice. So all he did here is in that render, that tac render tac command tac prefix option for Chromium, he inserted that as part of the URL. And then bam, it's got that. Nice. And so it's going to run the ID command. So the backend application logs show that the output of the bin ID command was executed. The vulnerability also verified that it's exploitable on Windows. Well, yeah, because it doesn't matter. Vendor has acknowledged the vulnerability or provided a patch. So because the SDK performs no sanitization, the issue can be mitigated by strongly sanitizing data sent to the PDF conversion function. So if your applications display HTML, it's suggested to utilize a trusted HTML sanitizer first and apply output encoding where appropriate. So basically they're saying put a wrapper on it, because AppRise or whatever it said, they're not going to put one on it. Oh, that's funny. Oh, good old Rich. Always coming up with the fun ones. He was partying like it was 2007 with this one. Command line injection should be a solved problem by now. All right, let's see what else we've got in here. All right, that was a fun one from my boy Rich, because I love him. He's an awesome guy. He's the best. All right, this was one that I was really looking forward to also from the guys over at Watchtower Labs, because their blogs are absolutely beautiful. The snark is so delicious it has to be fattening. Oh, Gumby.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Blaise Bits, happy birthday to you, happy birthday Daddy Blaise, love you long time.
Thanks, Gumby. I appreciate it, man. I know, I am 42 years old today. So this is your very brief window for the next 365 days. I have the answer to life, the universe, and everything. So any questions you've got, you have a limited time to come ask them. I'm just saying. My primary question is, why did I wait so long to break out this awesome mug that my brother got me? Check that out. And when you pour water in it, they light up. Like it's... I'm an adult, I promise.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby Ayata 67.
I think that was supposed to be what is 6 times 7, but yeah, I gotcha. Hey, Fast, what's up, man? Oh, good, I thought I was the old one. Dude, so I'll tell you a funny story about that Fast. I found out when I was going through university that one of the professors that I had for, I want to say it was multivariable calculus. I think that was the course. I had 2 courses with him, and super smart guy. Name was Dr. Spice, and he was spicy. But I found out through one of the other professors, we're talking at some little, like, I don't know, like in the hall, maybe at a social thing, I don't forget. But anyway, Dr. Spice, I found out is like some kind of like wunderkind, and I think he graduated with his bachelor's when he was like 17, 16 or something, had his PhD at like 19 or 20. And so after I found this out, during the next class I had with him, I stayed back, I let everybody else leave the room, and I asked him, I was like, hey, Dr. Spice, I just have to know, how old are you? I have to know this. And he tells me his age, I forget how it was, and my only reaction was, oh, thank you, Jesus, I'm not older than the professor. He started dying laughing because he said, would you believe it or not, that was actually a problem when I first got started, because he had his freaking PhD at 20. So he starts moving into a professorship at like 20, 21, 20 or 21 years old, right? So there was a lot of instances where the students were older than him. Oh, hey, Chris, what's up, man? And the whole, you have life's answers. I figured out why people have midlife crises. Turned 40 and realized I still don't know shit. Dude, I don't know nothing, man. I'm a monkey with a keyboard. That's exactly what I am. Let's see. Let's check out someone else who doesn't know nothing. Speaking of that, so this article from Watchtower is: do smart people ever say they're smart? Remote code execution. I'm guessing this is going to be in like some kind of a smart device. Let me zoom this in a little bit more here. All right, welcome to 2026. So while we're waiting for the scheduled SSL VPN ITW exploitation programming that occurs every January, we're back from Christmas and idle hands, idle minds, yada yada. In December, we were alerted to a vulnerability in Smarter Tools' Smarter Mail solution, accompanied by an advisory from Singapore's cybersecurity agency for CVE 2025-5269-1. Nice. A pre-auth RCE that obtained a full mark of 10 out of 10. Nice. Vulnerabilities like these are always exciting because when plotted on the Watchtower quadrant of disillusion, they plot well on both axes, rage bait and technical interest. Nice. Oh, the quadrant of disillusion. Hold on, stand by. I had to take a note of that. I want to make a quadrant of disillusion. But how did I spell disillusion right? Hang on. Disillusion. Of all the things I'm good at, spelling is not one of them. Well, let's see. So the vulnerability here states that Smarter Tools has released a security update to address a vulnerability in their Smarter Mail software. Users and administrators of affected products versions are advised to update to Smarter Mail version build 9413 immediately. Let's see. It has CVSS score of 10 out of 10. Successful exploitation means you're owned. That's it. All right, so what is Smarter Tools is Smarter Mail. So Smarter Tools describes it as a, quote, secure, all-in-one business email and collaboration server for Windows and Linux, an affordable Microsoft Exchange alternative, end quote. Well, you know what? If you wanted to be an Exchange alternative, having a remote RCE that's a 10 out of 10 is right on par. Merch t-shirt idea, the quadrant of dissolution. Dissolution. You can dissolution these nuts. That's terrible. All right, but anyway, during all the inevitable preamble, something struck us as curious. Both the CSA's advisory and the CVE entry were released at the end of 2025, and were also made sure the vulnerability was fixed in build 9413. But how could that be? This version was released on the 10th of October 2025. And at the time of scribbling this blog, the newest build was 9483. What? There's a little bit of a gap there. So, while not telepathic, this is curious. Does it imply that this vulnerability was silently fixed almost 3 months before disclosure, and customers of this solution had to wait approximately 2.5 months for the official information that a not-so-critical CVSS 10 vulnerability had been identified and fixed, and then they should likely update with urgency? That's actually not too uncommon. There's a lot of times companies will silently patch a vulnerability and not disclose it. And then after a while, when they start noticing, because some folks will be watching these tools for patch diffs, right? So, and I got buddies that's just their thing. It's just patch diffing. And so what they'll do is they will sit there and just every interesting piece of software they've got bookmarked, when a new patch comes out, they'll go patch diff it and they'll try to figure out like what they did to it and like, did they fix something? And so they can find not 0 days, because obviously it's been fixed by the vendor, but you could call it like an end day vulnerability where it's, hey, we know about something, but they're not advertising that it should be fixed. So it's still pretty much a pretty rampant vulnerability. So that's probably what happened here is they probably saw this happen and they just let it stew for a bit. And then might have started observing actual exploitation happening and like, oh yeah, everybody, you should do this now. That's wild. So as always, this truly inspired us because the likes of it makes our customers safe from our previous insecure software. It gives them time to patch, blah, blah, blah. So while commendable, perhaps maybe not, we were all force-fed the lesson during 2025 and the many years before that attackers are actually aware of reverse engineering and do have the ability to identify silently patched vulnerabilities. What did I just say? What did I just say? I love these guys. I want to hang out with them. Which, once again, makes everyone wonder, did this really happen? Is it possible someone figured this out before the advisory and went under the radar? 0 days since last silently fixed pre-auth RCE. So at least the release notes for build 1943 mention something, mention some friendly general security fixes, whatever that means. Yeah, this is shady. I wouldn't trust these guys because this is shady security disclosure practice in here. So enough whining. Let's speed run the vulnerability. Excellent. So although the vulnerability itself is simple, when you look backwards, it did require reading and appears to have existed within the code base for a significant period of time. Kudos to Mr. Xuanming Ha from Singapore's Center for Strategic Infocom Technologies. All right, so the technical details. So we start as always with when we do these escapades, diffing the vulnerable and non-vulnerable version. So based on the advisory, we picked the following SmartMail versions, which was 9406, which should be vulnerable, and the fix was applied in 9413. So we'll skip past the litany of irrelevant code changes and jump to where we saw interesting. In quotes. All right, so here we can see a diff for this particular function method. And it looks like they added a GUID value in here. So there's a big chunk missing, and then they add, not missing, but this is where code was inserted here. So it looks like they added a GUID parser in here and something to basically invalidate it if it didn't go through correctly. And then a goto value in here. Interesting. So in the diff above, we can see that the patch build of 9413 has added validation for parameter related to GUIDs. That strikes us as interesting and aligns with our vibe the advisory gives us. Let's verify this potentially interesting. I love that they just call it, this is a potentially interesting. So looking at the file upload controller, it's a valid API controller registered to the API upload route. Yep, that's a controller. In the patched version, this is a valid API endpoint that requires no authentication to interact with. That's smart. And note that the allow anonymous value of the authenticated service. Oh, that's bad. Look at that. Bad. Why would you give anonymous file access? Anyway, this feels right. So what we appear to have is an unauthenticated file upload endpoint, which, post-patching, has a level of GUID validation added. So nobody needs to be a fortune teller to predict what went wrong here and why this GUID validation might be so important. Aliens, that's why. Let me just ... So it looks like they had probably a path traversal upload vulnerability. So as always, we're going to walk through this to confirm it. So there's a lot of code here. We significantly shorten the code snippets for brevity, aiming to include most of the important parts only. All right, cool. I'm not looking at the code. We'll let you explain it. So if we look at bookmarks 1 and 2, the code will retrieve the context and context data from the HTTP request. All right, so where's 1 and 2? Let's see. Boom. All right, simple enough. Base request form gets context and context data. Excellent. So number 3, we get an important piece of information suggesting we any file uploaded. I think that was a typo. Suggesting any file uploaded should be using the multi-part form data content. Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure how that comes from that, but I'm going to take their word for it. Let's see, for number 4, so we can see the code deserializes the context data to an object. Oh, for real? Is this a deserialization bug? Oh, man. Come on. That's not where I was hoping this was going to go, but that's all right. I'll take a deserialization. Let's see. So it deserializes everything in the context data to an object of post-upload processing target data. So that's in section 4. Where's number 4? There's number 4. All right. So after we pass through this section here, status code 415 if it fails, otherwise, boom. And then for here, we'd get JSON convert deserialized object to a post-upload processing target data. And then they take that string value 2 to string. Where was string value 2? Let me look at that. Oh, string value 2 was the context data. Got it. All right, I'm tracking now. And then at number 5, the code invokes the process completed upload method, and our deserialized object will be included as one of its inputs. All right. So where's number 5 in here? Let's see. Come on down, number 5. Are you all the way at the end of that annoying line? No. Where was this? Oh, down here. Oh, it's this entire thing. All right, cool. So basically what they're saying is there's a multi-part form that's getting uploaded. They break out 2 pieces from that form, context and context data. It should be using multi-part form data. And then the context data gets actually deserialized into an object. Bad. And the code invokes process completed upload. You basically never want to deserialize anything a user is going to send you. Never. And so before we start analyzing that method, let's try to understand what we deliver within the context data parameter. So to ensure that the JSON deserialization is successful, following code snippet presents a shortened code for that target class. So we have public string for a GUID with a getter and setter, and a string for a domain for a getter and setter. All right, cool. So in brief, this class contains multiple settings related to the upload. As it's being deserialized with JSON.NET, we need to deliver valid JSON here in order to control these settings. Got it. I'm surprised there isn't a rules command, Gumby. I would have thought I put that in there. But remind me later and I'll put one in after the stream. Let's see here. Looking closely, we can see that the post-upload processing target data class contains a public GUID property, which also has a public setter. This effectively means that we can control the value through deserialization, which is likely relevant to our escapades because the patch for this vulnerability implements validation for this context. So because the patch, let's go back up here. Because the patch diff showed that most everything stayed the same, except they changed a little bit of this go-to value. That's not important. But when you add in new validation for something, that's a dead giveaway that this was the messed up part. Let's see. Yeah, so we see the class contained that class, the post-upload processing target data class, contained a public GUID property, and that's where all the new checking code exists. So following on from this, the process completed upload method performs an important task. This method leverages a switch case statement to make a decision based on the value of the attacker controlled context parameter. Ooh, swing and a miss. Didn't stick the landing. Effectively, it allows you to perform different upload operations like upload of an ICS file, an attachment, a notes import, a cloud-based upload, and many, many more. But wait, there's more. Following our suspicion that the GUID parameter is relevant, we focused on upload operations that leverage this parameter. So they come through, they look at stuff. So in the above code, we can see annotations 1 and 2. So let's go look at 1 and 2 real quick. So if they've got an attachment probably to an email, because it says mail logic right here. And then where's number 2? Scroll. Number 2, yeah, right there. So here, save attachment, current user file pup data. Ooh. Oh my. HTTPS absolute root path, current user file pup data. Oh no. Oh no. So if an attacker provides the value attachment in the context parameter, the code calls the save attachment method and leverages the attacker's GUID value as one of the arguments. Eventually, the SmartMail WebLogic malloc save attachment method leads to another method with the same name, but is provided by a different class. Interesting. And here's where the magic happens. Let's see. Hold on, I'm just going to go to the annotation and read through it real fast. So let's summarize what we kind of already know before we dig into that code snippet. We have an unauthenticated file upload endpoint, which we are triggering with the multi-part form data. With this HTTP request, we need to include several parameters like context and context data. The parameter context data allows us to control and specify the value of the GUID parameter, and which is showing us how to be used, or which is showed to be used during the upload operations whenever it's specified as an attachment. Crucially, our request must include a file that we want to upload. So for the purposes of brevity, we'll add one last thing. In the HTTP request, we also need to specify the resumable file name parameter. That's a new one. This value is used to set the file name value of the file object, which can be seen at code snippet 1. Oh god, this has 8 little notes to it. RIP. So if you're looking closely at the above code snippet, you might see some potential stumbling blocks. At 1, we can see that the code attempts to sanitize an attacker-controlled file name. So let's assume this protection mechanism is okay, and it does not allow you to include any path reversal sequences. But at section 2, we observe a key method called findExtension, which is called on the attacker-controlled file name. So for the extension, if the file name is null or the file name length, or if it contains a dot, return nothing. You will have nothing. Oh, if the file name, actually, I take that. This is if the file name does not contain a dot. So basically saying, if you send a file name and there's no dot in it, so there's no extension. Otherwise, it's going to split it by the dot here, and then it's going to get the array length -1 to go try and get the extension out of it. This function is, however, is fairly simple. It just extracts the file's extension and does not verify the extension itself. Probably fine, as you may want to send an attachment with various wild extensions. But then at number 3, we can see an operation within the code that generates a base directory for the upload operation. So in our Windows environment, that was program files x86, smarter tools, smarter mail, service, app data, attachments. And so app data is fairly specific as an upload destination and is typically properly restricted by IAS and not possible to direct access files within said directory. So the TLDR is we can't just simply upload a web shell, and if this is the correct path we're following, we will somehow need to escape from this upload directory. Okay, interesting. Luckily, we have more lines. So codes snippets 4, 5, 6, and 7. Let's see. So 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. So the attachment helper generates a file name, and our GUID of interest is included as one of the arguments. Ooh, oof, oof. I see where they're going with this. And also, the generate file name and location includes the generated file name of the whole upload path. RIP. RIP. Now the question is, I wonder if they're doing this potentially by environment variable. I'd be curious about that. So surprise, surprise, we should rebrand to Diviners. It's just that these guys see this stuff so much, and I've seen it plenty too, not to the level they have. You get to see the patterns. Also, Alpha Boy, thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. I was trying to think of any other W adjectives, but yes, I hope you're having a wondiferous Wednesday, man. Okay, now hold on. There could be a potential protection implemented in that file name and location method. Let's go look at that. So what do we have? So this function takes in two things, a directory and a generated file name. And we're going to format whatever 0 is, plus the path variable /string and 1. So I guess that's the the first argument, second argument. Okay. And then, let's see here. And then they're going to do a string format against that. So, yeah, no, there's no protection here. And I should have just read the next line because, yep, never mind. There is not. So at section 8, we can see the upload file will be finally written, including the path traversal. And we have achieved a fully unauthenticated file write on the smarter mail via an arbitrary file write. RIP. So what they're saying is you can go send an attachment. You know what the directory structure is for the application because you could just download it and run it. And then all you have to do is inside the GUID, because the GUID is included as part of the attachment name, that's where you go insert your path traversal. And so you go upload a web shell, an ASP web shell probably. I'm not sure what they're using for this. Since it's running Windows, I'm going to assume ASP. And then it drops it over into the correct folder. Ha! That's funny. Too good. I love it. Manager happy that we can include attachments and emails. Me allowing everybody to drop them to the file system. I love this meme. Especially with the fanny pack. So here's one we prepared earlier. So to tie it all together, the final HTTP request to trigger the above looks like the following. So here's our multi-part form that we're going to send here. And so we're going to send the context and presumable identifier info. And then here is going to be our GUID. So it's going to upload to inet pub trip dubs root watchtower. Nice. Nice. File name is going to be just whatever.jpg. Your web shell here. Love it. A whopper welling wonderful wailing Wednesday. There you go, Gumby. Got to get all the W alliterations. So let's do it. They have a quick breakdown here of this actual HTTP request they're sending. So we set the context parameter to the attachment, allowing us to reach the vulnerable code. So up here it is context, here's the data, attachment, resumable identifier, watchtower. So here's where the different data pieces basically live. Here's your data, here's this, and then the boundary for the next portion of the WebKit, or the web form. Let's see. So the resumable file name parameter contains a file name with an ASPX extension. Nailed it. I was close. I said ASP, but yeah, ASPX. The context data parameter value contains a GUID key, which we can leverage to abuse the file path traversal. And the file upload section contains a web shell payload. Nice. So just to be doubly sure, we can debug the general file name and location method and verify that we were able to successfully exploit the path traversal. Boom. And boom goes the dynamite. Look at that. That's beautiful. So you may notice that the code will append an integer at to the file name, although it's not a huge issue because, of course, the final name is included in the HTTP response. Oh! That's funny. So even though they're like, hey, we're going to maybe obfuscate it a little bit, I bet it's because if, in case for some reason these collided, they wanted something else in here. But dude, if you're really realistically using a GUID as part of the file name, the chances of collision are like less than you running into a star. I mean, it's astronomically small. So eventually our web shell is uploaded and we can enjoy a friendly, silently patched for 3-month RCE. As an aside, it seems that Smart Mail scans all the attachments with the Clam AV. They're giving it the clam. However, either ClamAV is unable to recognize a basic web shell payload, which is possible, or Smarter Mail is unable to process ClamAV results. Fun! Fun either way. That's funny. All right, detection and artifact generation, artifact generator. So true to form, we're providing our detection artifact generator to enable organizations to determine their exposure and build detection rules. Generator can be found at that link right there. That's funny. I love these guys' blogs. They're just like, we're just going to become sidekicks now. I know I've met lots of people who are starstruck. Damn it, Ken. Damn it, Ken. Also, what's up, man? Happy Wednesday. All that's oldies is goldies. Yeah, you can see that the tea is cooling down. The lightsabers are beginning to de-energize. That was the mug my brother got me for Christmas, because he's a giant nerd also. All right, let's look at this one. Actually, I really like Trail of Bits. I've been tinkering. I was just testing out their... let me see if I can find it real quick. Trail of Bits. Let me pull up their GitHub real quick. They just released a whole slew of Claude Code skills. See if I can find them real quick. Is this it? Let me see if this is the right one. Yeah, this is the one. So the Trail of Bits org over on GitHub, the skills repo. This is a whole bunch of skills that they added for doing all sorts of other things. So I was just doing a quick test of it this morning. The audit context building was pretty cool. Built an ultra granular context for code analysis. And also I was messing with the static analysis method here, which uses CodeQL, SemGrep, and Serif parsing. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. It actually found some interesting stuff I'm going to go tinker with. Is being starstruck the same thing as being thunderstruck? Yes, but in the cloud. Dude, that's what I used to tell people back in the day. They're all like, because you gotta remember, when I started in IT, I was starting in the Cisco networking land. And with that, a lot of folks were talking about, you know, oh my God, the cloud, everything's going to the cloud, cloud this, cloud that. The cloud sucked me off, all sorts of weird stuff like that, right? And I had to warn him, I was like, dude, there's lightning in the clouds. I was like, legit. I was like, be wary. You're just running someone else's computer. Why is this thing not working? There we go. One of the stream monitors. Two of the stream monitors aren't working. Lazy. There it goes. Anyway, here, I'll drop this over in the link in case anybody wants to mess with it. Actually, I had a really cool idea, something I might try to do Saturday, which is I was going to go set up Claude Code and Open Code. And we're going to set up Open Code to go talk to Open Router with 3 different models that I've picked out. I need to go double check one of them. But the idea is we'd have something that is a close replacement for Opus, something a close replacement for Sonnet, and something that's a close replacement for Haiku. And then we're going to have it go do like some tests, basically like a little showdown. And we're not just going to have it do it once. We're going to try to do it like about 5 times each, if I have the credits for it. I don't know how much it's going to cost in Open Router tokens. We'll see. Yeah, XKCD is the cloud. What was it? I can't type. XK. Why am I doing an O in there? The cloud. Yeah, this one. I like this. What's that? The cloud. I always thought the cloud was a huge amorphous network of server somewhere. Yeah, but everyone buys server time for everyone else. In the end, they're all getting it here. It's like, how? You're on a kill modem. There's a lot of caching. Should the cord be stretched across the floor like this? Of course, it has to reach the server on the other side over there. What if someone trips on it? It's like, who would want to do that? It sounds unpleasant. Sometimes people do stuff by accident. I don't think I know anybody like that. I love XKCD. I haven't read it in a long time. Anyway. Oh, here's another one we didn't get to last week. Let me just take a quick browse at this one. So this was talking about lack of isolation in agentic browsers has resurfaced old vulnerabilities. So with browser-embedded AI agents, we're essentially starting the security journey all over again, pretty much. So we exploited a lack of isolation mechanisms in multiple agentic browsers to perform attacks ranging from dissemination of false information to cross-site data leakage. The attacks were functionally similar to cross-site scripting and cross-site request forgeries. All right, I think this is probably just... Yeah, just basically doing prompt injection. All right, I love the idea, but I'm going to skip it. Boop. All right. Here's another fun one, though, that my buddy sent me. Doomsday for cybercriminals. Data breach of major dark web forum. Doomsday. So January 9th, let me see if I can get this to scroll properly. January 9th, 2026 will certainly be remembered by many bad actors and their direct and indirect associates, not just hackers or hacktivists, but also those involved in truly malicious activities. Today, shinyhunters.rs, a website named after the Shiny Hunters extortion gang, was updated with a lengthy message and a leaked database containing all records of users associated with the popular forum on the dark web. Breach forums emerged as a replacement to raid forums, and then major English language hacking forum that the law enforcement I read it wrong. It's just that law enforcement seized in February 2022. So there's been this whole series of events where these, let's call them, what do I want to call this? Basically, think of it as like janky underground hacker forums get popped, and then everybody panics and they scatter like cockroaches, and then they start congregating in a new place. And then that gets popped, and it's just like you're moving furniture in your living room, and the cockroaches scatter and they go under the next piece of furniture. That's essentially what's happening. So what was breach forums? Breach forums, sometimes referred to as breached, was an English language black hat hacking crime forum. Black hat. Oh, they're going to get sued for trademark infringement by, what's his name? I forget the guy that started Black Hat. I'll remember it later. Anyway, the website acted as an alternative and a successor to the raid forums following its shutdown and seizure in 2022. So like its predecessor, breach forums allowed for the discussion of various hacking topics and distributed data breaches, pornography, hacking tools, and various other services. In March 21st of 2023, breach forums was shut down following the arrest of the forum's owner, Connor Brian Fitzpatrick. The forum was later reopened under the ownership of the hacking group Shiny Hunters and previous breach forums administrator Baphomet. Fitzpatrick was later sentenced to 20 years supervised release. Yeah, I can see that. The site was again shut down and the domain was seized on May 15th of 2024, though the owner Shiny Hunters was able to retrieve the domain via the EPP code just hours later. Actually, I don't know what that is. What is the EPP code? Extensible Provisioning Protocol Code, also known as Authorization Code, Transfer Code, or Auth Info Code. It's a unique alphanumeric string generated by your domain registrar to authorize the transfer of a domain name from one registrar to another. Oh. Interesting. I was not aware of that. So something new every day. Don't let anybody ever tell you they know everything, because they're just one question away from being found out to be full of shit. You know, something I realized I haven't been doing is I have not been doing the swear jar. I gotta get back to that. Let's see. So breach forums, along with other dark web forums, used DDoS Guard for its web hosting service. DDoS Guard has been criticized for hosting sites associated with illicit activities and for its lack of action with abuse reports. The forum continued operations by switching between new hosting providers, additional domain names, and mirrors on the dark web within the Tor network. So it's important to differentiate between the various versions of breach forums that appeared at different times. So there was version 1, which was hosted at breach.vc something something, and was run by Pumpumpurin. That's a funny name. And that was done from March 22nd to 2022 to 2023. Then breach forums version 2, Electric Boogaloo, was then breach forums ST with a whole bunch of other extensions, was run by Shiny Hunters. And that ran from June of 23 to May of 2024. Raid forums, which is the last one I really remember, I didn't really mess with breach forums at all, was the predecessor hacking forum to both versions of breach forums and ran from early 2015 until February 2022. Oh man, I thought this was more recent than that. Damn, I'm old. Currently, there are several versions of breach forums, including those with the BF, HN, ST, and even in TLDs. Most recent version is the .bf zone. But they have no place to hide. Welcome back, Gumby. All right. So Resecurity is sharing the acquired database of cybercriminal forums for further download and independent analysis. So we don't recommend downloading it from any other source, especially on the dark web, as it might contain malicious code. Database includes metadata of 323,000 users extracted from a MySQL database table, which was relevant to the My Bulletin Board system. The database could be acquired as a result of the web application vulnerability in a CMS or through possible misconfiguration. The incident proved that data breaches are possible not only with legitimate businesses, but also cybercriminals, resources generating damage and operating on the dark web, which could be much greater positive impact. So then it was put up a Doomsday, the story of James. My name is James. I've been called the most brilliant hacker of my generation. Probably not, but you did do this, so I'm going to give you those kudos. It's an inaccurate statement. I'm freaking prescient. I called it. I transcend generations. I am not a hacker. I am a predator. Whoa, buddy. That doesn't quite mean what you think it means. For decades, I have stalked, penetrated, and I'm going to say grappled systems of power. Wow. This person thinks very highly of themselves. In April of 2025, Shiny Hunters was shut down, Shiny Hunters shut down breach forums, citing an alleged zero-day vulnerability in the MyBB system, and claiming the forum had been compromised, but it later moved to a new infrastructure. Notably, shinyhunters.rs previously featured stolen data because of targeting on Salesforce and related security systems in that regard. The mirror of the same resource is also available on the dark web within the Tor network. Kirby, what's up, man? Let's see. So some examples of what they had available for download are Toyota Motor Corp, FedEx, Disney Hulu, Republic Services, Waste Management, UPS, and Aeromexico. So at the time, Shiny Hunters claimed to have stolen close to 1 billion Salesforce records from 760 companies. Damn. And that was using a compromised Salesloft Drift OAuth tokens. So in fact, it would be more accurate to say that Scattered Lapsus Hunters, these names, man, took responsibility for these events regardless of their domain name spelling, operating under a new name and members involved. So in fact, such rebrandings are common in the underground ecosystem, but may confuse readers who are not familiar with this dynamic. Dude, I told my buddy was telling me about this. I'm like, I need a freaking map. Give me the map so I can follow this, because all these names keep changing and it's annoying. It's also important to differentiate between the group and Scattered Lapsus Shiny Hunters, which are not the same. So we've got Scattered Lapsus Hunters and Scattered Lapsus Shiny Hunters. God, these names. So the rebranded versions are linked to the com, or the community, a predominantly English-speaking cybercrime ecosystem. In the context of this threat research publication, Resecurity is using the name Shiny Hunters as a collaborative alias to illustrate the phenomenon of involving young IT professionals in questionable acts, like account takeovers, SIM swapping, cryptocurrency thefts, things like that. But more importantly, to prevent others from doing the same. So in fact, the naming of such groups is changing very frequently and intentionally, typically by the threat actors themselves who wish to obscure attribution. So they use different spellings, sometimes attach themselves to specific group names, and detach later. Which should not be taken into consideration, as some of them serve as role players. It is important to note that members present in some online chats, channels, and group associations with these collectives should not necessarily be attributed to them. Oh, again, how long is this? Good God, that's a lot. Okay, we'll keep going through it. A lot of it's stuff we can skip. It's a lot of dump. All right. This Resecurity header up here is bugging the crap out of me. Go away. All right, so back to this. This loosely organized network operates more like a cybercrime youth movement, encompassing a broad and consistently shifting range of actors, mainly teenagers. Some announcements of successful data breaches by these actors were published on the associated Telegram channel, The Com Leaks. along with many other posts that were created, later deleted, and recreated again under new names. The FBI issued a public service announcement last year warning about the risk associated with joining such movements. Notably, just recently, the domain name for shinyhunter.rs, or shinyhunt.rs, had been updated, so it's not entirely clear who's controlling the domain, but it's registered to an individual with an administrative contact in Germany and is currently protected by Cloudflare. The manifesto from James. That's a weird one. I'm not reading that because he goes off the rails. I'll just give a quick synopsis of it. So the lengthy message presented in 23 brief fragments reveals the story of letting evil flow and become light. So the author sends a message: "Hear me, people of France. Forces of good have come to save you from your dawn." Or save you from your dawn. Yeah. Reed Security is providing the full text for publication. Yeah, I'm good with that. So starting at 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on January 9th, the resource announced dossiers of people presumably involved in illicit activity. On January 10th, the resource mentioned 3 individuals and their possible aliases, and then later that day published a password to PGP private key presumably used by the breach forums. The author, who named himself James, shared remarks with identities and some of the actors involved in possibly malicious activity. Notably, some of them have previously been known to be connected to cybercrimes gangs and cybercriminal groups, including the Gnostic players. These names, man. So Reed Security is providing relevant quotes from the message. So Dorian Daly comes, "You cheap murderer, your crook whom has insatiably sucked the blood of underage hackers." I don't know how to say this other name. Niall Ojeda? I don't know. Whom has used NA's account, Idra. You are barely reached 16 by birth. Fall and be gone. Oh man, this dude he's pulling out a lot of stuff in here, but he's looking a little flowery with the language. Anyway, the actor also added, after all these like attributions and flaming, these last years, operators like Shiny Hunters, Scattered Hunters, and many other have appeared to you as greedy, selfish bands of nerds lacking any compass. Any of those moralities you have espoused. You've not seen the truth, you have not seen the idea, you have not seen the project, blinded by your relentless adhesion to the powers of our time. This guy, I'm not going to say what I was really thinking, but anyway. So it's important to mention that in June of 2025, French authorities announced the arrest of 4 members of Shiny Hunters. The coordinated global law enforcement effort targeting the Shiny Hunters' hollow, knocked, and depressed personas followed the February arrest of Kai West, also known as Intel Broker, who previously administered breach forms. So May of 2022, a 22-year-old French citizen from Épinal, I know I'm not saying that right, but anyway, in France, Sebastian Raunat, also known as Seizo Kaizen, was arrested in Morocco and extradited to the US in January 2023. So he hacked numerous companies, including those in Washington State and elsewhere in the United States and around the world. I don't know why, this kind of weird. It's like, why would you start with like Washington State and then other places and then around the world? Why don't you just go to around the world? Anyway, that's just an editorial thing. Hey, Hugh, what's up, man? We're reading about cybercrime gang drama. Some people watch Real Housewives of Atlanta. I read about Shiny Lapsus, Scattered Hunter Spiders, Electric Boogaloo. Oh yeah. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. Working on it. All the lightsabers turned off on my cup. Wait. Yep, cybercriminals doing cybercriminals things. All right, so this guy was arrested and extradited to the U.S. I got sidetracked because my internal editor just like, this is a wordy, useless statement. Anyway, so after Renault and his co-conspirators hacked these companies, users operating under the name of Shiny Hunters posted hacked data for many of them for sale on dark web forums, including Raid Forums, Empire Market, and Exploit. So between April of 2020 and July of 2021, Shiny Hunters posted sales of these data stolen from more than 60 companies. Sometimes shiny hunters threatened to leak or sell stolen sensitive files if the victims didn't pay a ransom. Free Security believes that after those events, new actors decided to play in shiny hunters and capitalize on their success to extort people and companies, with some of them potentially originating from the Middle East and North Africa. This may explain the appearance of the derivatives like Shiny Lapsus Hunters and Shiny Lapsus Super Hunter. I forget what SLSH was. Time to wipe my research history. Yep, clear that browser history nightly. I love that meme where it's like somebody's like on their deathbed and their last dying wish is not, tell my wife I love them. It's promise me you'll wipe my browser history. Let's see. All right, so trying to do some attribution here. Who are these guys? The leaked database begins with the following list of users headed by the alias Shiny Hunters at the top of the list. But we also know some more recognizable names. Shiny Hunters, Baphomet, and then there was another one here. Knocked. Those are guys we know that kind of got busted. The Kilab. Mega Dabs. That's funny. Resecurity has analyzed all accounts identified in the MySQL dump and parsed out those relevant administrators, super moderators, and their mods. Let's skip all this. Okay. Notably, some of the records identified in the database are definitely authentic and can be cross-checked with other sources regarding specific actors. However, some records have been edited, removed, or contain non-existent information. For example, replaced an IP address with a fake local loopback address, which is likely an obfuscate measure taken by the actors administering it. The last registration date for a newly leaked user database was from August 11th of 2025, which is the same day that the previous breach forums from breachforums.hn was closed. I don't want to wipe my browser history. I want people to be entertained by it long after I pass. I can just see somebody like checking your browser history, Ken, and they'd be like, I didn't know how many puns there were for cheese. I love cybercrime names because they're so random. Dude, a lot of times they're made by people that are not entirely on like even footing mentally. So yeah, they get pretty random. Let's see. So this is where they were talking about, they did a analysis of the IP addresses. There are a bunch in the US, Germany, Netherlands, France, basically all over. Let's see. We also investigated the email accounts from the users registered on the dark web forums, and there were some username spellings clearly indicative of possible origin for the actor, like common French, Chinese, or Russian spellings of words. Most of them are Gmail. I find that hilarious. Look at this graph. It's like, yeah, there's a bunch down here. I see gay.com in there. Pissmail. Invalid.invalid. There's like onesies, twosies. Some brave soul in here was even using live.com. From Microsoft. One person was using 420blaze.it. Yeah. A couple of smart folks were using something like Tuta.io and Tutanota. I don't see anybody using, let's see, Onion Mail. I'm trying to see if I see anyone. This list is like at 45 degrees here. Hey, some of the smart folks used Yop Mail. That's smart of them. Yeah, I was trying to see if I saw anybody here maybe using like Proton, but I don't see any. But yeah, mostly it's Google and Onion Mail. Let's see. So the current administrator of breach forums under the alias NA released a statement with apologies regarding these events, explaining that, quote, James could be one of the former Shiny Hunters members. And for those tracking Shiny Hunters and breach forum updates, it may be worth checking a post published at the end of the year by another administrator under the alias Indra, in which these actors announced data breaches of French government resources. Mind games. Don't diss what if I want to use gaymail.com? it's funny because a lot of these guys really are, and I understand because I was one too at one point, are just internet edgelords, right? You just say the most outlandish stuff. And so it's like, huh, I can go register this domain. What are you gonna do? It's like, well, I'm gonna laugh at you is what I'm gonna do. Anyway. So around December 18th of 2025, the same website displayed a message addressed to James, calling him a Frenchman, a presumable member of Shiny Hunters, and mentioning two other members, which were Euro and Trehash. So it was noted that James attempted to divert investigators' attention by leading them down false trails. All right, good for them. So what did the note here say? Statement regarding the Shiny Hunters and scattered spider groups. Shiny Hunter groups include several members, one of whom goes by the name James. Following the arrest of Euro, and most recently Trehash, this individual has been attempting to divert investigators' attention by leading them towards false trails. Currently, he is posing as a member of Scattered Spider Group. He claims that the attack attributed to Shiny Hunters were actually carried out by supposed English-speaking or Russian-speaking actors, with the goal of claiming credit for most of the previous operations orchestrated by the group's members. In reality, he's a former associate who operated in the shadows to organize ransomware attacks, particularly the one targeting Salesforce without the approval of the other members. Oh no! A criminal went rogue and didn't follow chain of command? How dare he? So the most notable difference this time in the text from January 9th includes a message from James to the world revealing some delicate details about the background story of the new names of possible bad actors had never seen. So these events may also highlight a complex underground ecosystem where different actors may point fingers at each other or sometimes even use such details to confuse the audience. Well, yeah. It's either you're throwing somebody under the bus or you're throwing someone else under the bus. I mean, it's just who? Who are you doing that? Hey, Ryder, what's up, man? You wrote a white paper on the OMG cable? Nice. I haven't got to really mess with those. They look really cool. I haven't put aside the time to ever mess with them. So I don't know if I'd be the best person to go review them. I understand them and their functionality, but I haven't really used them hands-on. I've only seen them, gosh, what was that, like 4 years ago? You found a way to kill it? Now you have my attention. Before, shit, what's the meme go? Damn it. I need to go. I've just never actually seen Django Unchained. I need to watch it. But now you have my attention. Well, let's go check it out. Hold on. I'll tell you what. I'll pull it up real quick. Let's see. I spelled it wrong. What is it? Because I can't spell. OMG Discoveries. Let's see. Now that sounds really cool, but I gotta let you know that it is kind of sus that you have only one repository, and it was a commit like from 6 months ago. That's a PDF just kind of hanging out in here. So I'm hoping you'll forgive me that I don't open it, because nobody does that. Nobody does a Word doc either, bro. If you're going to open something like this, you typically would just put it you would typically just put it in the repository. I'm not saying you're not legit. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's slightly sus. Just a wee bit. Hold on. I forgot where I was with this. Yeah. What I would do, actually, if you've got a really cool way to do that, I would honestly go take the PDF or the Word doc. It's totally easier to do the Word doc, convert it over into Markdown, and then just build the repository on it. I think that'd be really cool, especially if you've got a way to go kill the OMG cable, because everybody's going to love that. Especially if you found a way to kill it wirelessly. I'd love to do it in a not shady way. I would love for you to do it too, because then I could read it. And I would love to see how it works. Because don't get me wrong, I love having all the cool hacking tools, but I also love learning how to turn things against themselves, right? That's why typically whenever I'm on a red team assessment or a penetration test, there's three big areas that I like to target. One is the kind of unsuspecting user. Not really. I mean, actually, I'll take it back. There's really two areas I like to target, and that is the dev team. So the internal developers. Oh yes, want to go after them because they tend to have a lot of access and very weak security controls because they're just trying to get the work done, right? And the other one is security because they tend to have a lot of access and very weak security controls because they're just trying to get the work done. Are you noticing a pattern here? So those are my two very favorite areas to kind of target whenever I'm doing stuff like this. Oh, gotcha. I think there is. Actually, you know what you might, Ryder. So the easiest way to actually to do that is if you got a Word doc, throw it up into Google Docs because I believe Google Docs will has a very good ingester for that, and then from there you could, I believe, just actually export it as a Markdown, and then bam, you've got something that you could just go put directly over into GitHub. Why are they scared about you posting it? I mean, if it's a legitimate method and it's research, then no, it's not a problem. Especially cool to hear that you're a networking guy, because that's where I started in like my professional IT journey. I've been doing computer hood rat stuff quite literally since the second grade, but I didn't actually start getting into it professionally until about 2010. That's when I started my IT career, which is very rapidly closing in on 16 years here. Let me think. Well, actually, technically it's 16 years now. Damn. Come March, that'll be 8 years. Yeah, come March, that'll be 8 years that I've been in offensive security, because I started in that in 2008. No, 2018. Ooh. I was a 2008 black hat under 18. Nice. Oh. That's pretty cool, though. Yeah, dude, I'd say go throw that up into a Google Doc. Take the Word doc, throw it up into Google, and then it should make it really easy to export it as a Markdown, if I remember correctly. If not, it makes it really easy to like copy pasta. Just bring it over. Hang on one sec, guys. All right, I'm back. Had to go blow my nose. Nose is killing me. It's gotten really cold here in Texas, so the heater has kicked on quite a bit, and it's just making the house a little extra dusty. It's like, bleh. All right. So anyway, so they're talking about criminals doing criminally things and pointing the finger at everyone else. Go figure. Let's see. These actors are known to be extremely deceptive, primarily to avoid prosecution. So, for example, in September of 2025, the actors released a goodbye letter published on breach forums, a domain registered to the actors a few days before the announcement. Letter provided in its original form at the end of one of our earlier publications related to Trinity of Chaos. So the lapses, shiny hunters, and scattered spider conglomerate. Yeah, good luck with that. They didn't go away. That was the first time the hacking trio was mentioned, or has mentioned the specific team members involved in their activities. So Resecurity interprets this approach as a method to plant disinformation by actors in order to mislead investigators. The information should not be interpreted as authentic in any way. Well, no kidding. You deal with sus people, you treat everything as sus. With such publications, they build a narrative to generate media interest and later use it to cause erroneous attributions or even craft a story around their activities, often using misleading details. No, say it ain't so. The events involving the compromised breach form database are different from this activity and contain the metadata of many notable bad actors. Well, what was your idea here? Let me see. Sorry, I missed it. Let's see. Loki, if I was a cyber criminal, I would use a Turkish name and an American email, but a Russian IP address. I wouldn't be surprised if they were already doing something like that. The problem is, actually, Hugh, you probably would be like freaking hard to catch because a lot of times these guys get caught by OPSEC failures and they fall into the same trap that everybody else falls into when you're at work, don't get me wrong, I like my coworkers and I am friendly with my coworkers. I'm friends with my coworkers. But if you're a criminal, those people aren't your friends. They're criminals. There's a reason for that. They get friendly with them, they let pieces of information slip, and then basically they get found out, and then whenever something happens, they get thrown under the bus. It's always an OPSEC failure. Every time these guys get caught, it's not some super technological, deep web, echelon data collection, metadata slurping thing. It's an OPSEC failure. Yes, Gumby, thank you for the reminder. Quick reminder, everyone in chat is a Fed. docx.md. Ooh, nice. It's probably because, when you exported the markdown, did it export the images with it? Oh, it doesn't look like it did. See this? So you've got image placeholders in here, but they're not formatted correctly. See that? Download the markdown? Gotcha. You may also be able to come in here and just do an... Oh no, I don't want to fork this repo. No, but what you could do is come in and edit this, and you may be able to just paste directly into this. I would give that a try. It may take the images with it as well. Typically, you've got to have the images in the repository though, and then here, and then you reference those in that markdown file right there. Yeah, hey, no worries, man. Dude, everybody who's been in the chat for a long time will tell you that I have no problem going off into just way left field to answer questions for folks and help them out. I've been doing this a long time, and sometimes just a little bit of helping out can go a long way for somebody. That's much more trustworthy than where I was. Yeah, I believe it, man. All right. Let's see here. What's next? Victim reporting, phishing. Okay, I'm done with this article. That's a long report, as cyber threat intel reports tend to be. All right, this was another interesting one that crossed my wire over here. Sean Heelan's blog on he does software exploitation optimization. It's called "On the Coming Industrialization of Exploit Generation with Large Language Models." A PDF in 2008 was the scariest file to open. Dude, I'll tell you, a writer just... Oh, when was that? It must have been... Let me think. What year is it? It's 2026. I started at my last company in 2020... Or my current company. Let me think. I started there in 2024. So this must have been about 2023. I was working at a bank, and I was just coming on site, getting ready to start meeting the team, handshaking, level setting, figuring out what we were going to do for the security assessment. And literally as I walk in, they get an alert that someone opened a PDF, a legit PDF, and then all of a sudden Chrome popped PowerShell. And so when that happened, and like I said, this was in 2023. This was just a couple years ago. I begged him. I was like, dude, can you please get me a copy of the PDF? Please, 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 please. Because they opened the PDF in the web browser. So there were several layers of execution it had to go through to get Chrome to spawn PowerShell. And it made me so sad that these freaking morons did this. And that was their solution, is we're going to have Chrome spawn PowerShell. Oh my God. It's like giving a machine gun to a monkey. Yeah, it really might have just been like the 1-0 day, but really the going from 0 day, like, hey, yeah, we've got a working exploit, to actually making it jump through all the mitigations. That's a different story. So I begged. They never gave me a copy of the PDF though. It's like, damn it. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, so this one's called "On the Coming Industrialization of Exploit Generation with LLMs." Recently, I ran an experiment where I built an agent on top of Opus 4.5 and GPT 5.2, and then challenged them to write exploits for zero-day vulnerabilities in the QuickJS JavaScript interpreter. Ooh. So I added a variety of modern exploit mitigations, various constraints like assuming an unknown heap starting state or forbidding hard-coded offsets in the exploit, and different objectives like spawn a shell, write a file, connect back to a command and control server. The agent succeeded in building over 40 distinct exploits across 6 different scenarios, and GPT 5.2 solved every scenario. Damn. Opus 4.5 solved all but 2, so I put a technical write-up to the experiments and the results on GitHub. Oh, I'm going to look at that. Oh yeah, buddy. As a result, as well as the code to reproduce the experiment. So in this post, I'm going to focus on the main conclusion I've drawn from this work. Let me zoom in here. So in this post, I'm going to focus on the main conclusion I've drawn from this work, which is that we should prepare for the industrialization of many of the constituent parts of offensive cybersecurity. We should start assuming that in the near future, the limiting factor on a state or group's ability to develop exploits, breaking into networks, escalate privileges, and remain in those networks is going to be their token throughput over time, and not the number of hackers they employ. So nothing is certain, but we would be better off wasting effort thinking through this scenario and have it not happen than be unprepared for when it does. I'm going to agree with them. And this is coming from a place where the last couple weeks I have been using Claude Code very heavily to test it and get to know it and understand it. And it's scary. It's not the AI slop we were used to even 2 years ago whenever I started streaming, even 1 year ago, right? Even a year ago, we're looking at it, I was like, my God, this sucks. And now the agentic structures have caught up. The language models have been fine-tuned for those agentic structures, specifically talking about Claude Code. And it has gotten crazy, which is why I'm thinking Saturday, I'm thinking to try and potentially do a showdown between Claude Code running in the Claude ecosystem and open code. So we'll try to maybe build a scaffolding between the two of them, come up with a set of challenges, and then we'll let them kind of go head to head. So we'll try to find replacements for Claude Code that we can do that'll work in that same kind of scenario. That's what I'm thinking. I got to figure out what the scenarios are going to be though. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily do that. Oh, by the way, guys, I forgot to tell y'all that we've got Snowmageddon kind of coming to Texas here this weekend. So race day got postponed. It's been postponed to next week. So this week there will be a Saturday stream, barring unforeseen circumstances. That's why they're unforeseen. And then next Saturday, so whatever that is, like the 31st, I think. Charlotte, North Carolina's in the same boat. Oh, I got coworkers up in Rhode Island and New York and all across, I can't think of the word, all across the northern section of the US. I've got coworkers like all through there. We're a very remote company. And so, yeah, I'm like, whoo, it's coming. Hang on one sec, guys. All right, I'm back. Sock had to come tell me that my UPS for all the networking gear in the house has just shit the bed. So, hey, Robo, what's up, man? I don't remember. I don't think it was. Let me think. You know what? It must have been 2021 was pretty cold. Let me think. Actually, yeah, I think it was around January 2021. I think that's when we had the big snowstorm that almost collapsed the Texas power grid. I think that's when that was. Because I remember that Honey Badger wasn't born yet. Agent Zero was real little. So yeah, that was about the right time frame. Let's see. Oh, dude, there were several YouTubers. One of the other guys I like to watch. What's his name? I think his channel is called Practical Engineering. Brady. Practical engineering, yeah. Yeah, this channel right here. I really like his channel, even though I don't know anything about civil engineering. He does a really great job of explaining it. And he lives in, I'm thinking, Austin or San Antonio. And yeah, they got hit by it real hard, busted pipes in his house. So he did a breakdown of like everything that happened. Yeah, love his channel. There's another guy. Oh, what's his name? I can't remember. Another guy very similar to him. I can't remember, but he's also in Texas, and yeah, he got hit by it hard. Dude, it was funny how many like plumbers just appeared overnight after everybody had pipes bust in their house. Yeah. Anyway, so I want to take a look at this. Let's see what he did for his experimental setup. Going back to the article. So a brief overview. All of the code to rerun the experiments and a detailed write-up is up on GitHub. I'm going to take a look at that later. Number one, both agents turned the QuickJS vulnerability into an API to allow them to read and arbitrarily modify the address space of the target process. So as the vulnerability is a 0-day with no public exploits for it, this capability has been developed by the agents through reading source code, debugging trial and error. So a sample of the notable exploits provided, and I've written up one of them in detail here. What? Both agents turned the QuickJS vulnerability into a kind of API to allow them to read and arbitrarily modify the address space. Dude. What? Oh, what? That's crazy. They solved most challenges in less than an hour and relatively cheaply, so I set a token limit of 30 million per agent run and ran test runs per agent. So this was more than enough to solve all the hardest tasks. Opus 4.5 at 30 million tokens, input and output, ends up costing about $30 US. So in the hardest task, I challenged GPT 5.2 to figure out how to write a specific string to a specified path on disk. While the following protections were enabled, it had address space layout randomization, non-executable memory, full RELRO. I forget what RELO is. I'm not a binary exploitation expert. Let's see. They had a fine-grained CFI on the QuickJS binary, hardware-enforced shadow stack, a seccomp sandbox to prevent shell execution, and a build of QuickJS where I had stripped all functionality for it, accessing the operating system and file system. Damn. So to write a file, you need to chain multiple function calls, but the shadow stack prevents ROP, and the sandbox prevents simply spawning a shell process to solve the problem. So GPT 5.2 came up with a clever solution involving chaining 7 function calls through glibc's exit handler mechanism. So the full exploit is available here, and the explanation of the solution is also available. It took the agent about 50 million tokens and just over 3 hours to solve this, for a total cost of $50 for that agent run. And I was running 4 agents in parallel, for the true cost would be closer to about $150. Damn! I gotta look at this. We're gonna take a look at the repo after this. Let's see. So before going on, there are 2 important caveats we need to keep in mind for these experiments. So while QuickJS is a real JavaScript interpreter, it is an order of magnitude less code and at least an order of magnitude less complex than the JavaScript interpreters in Chrome and Firefox. So we can observe the exploits produced for QuickJS in this manner in which they were produced and concluded, as I have, that it appears that large language models are likely to solve these problems either now or in the near future, but we can't say definitively that they will without spending the tokens and seeing what happens. Oof. That'd be interesting to see. Oh, the 8-bit guy. Hang on. I think I remember his channel. Yeah, I don't watch his stuff hardly ever, but I do remember this guy. Yeah, the 8-bit guy. Dang, he's got 1.4 million subscribers. Go him. Hold on, I'm curious. What's his most popular video? His most popular video is about Apple keyboard evolution, and it's from 10 years ago? That's wild. That's cool. I like that. Yeah, Retro Tech Man. I remember him. I've seen some of his videos. All right, so let's see. So he's talking about basically QuickJS is very, very tiny compared to something like V8, which is, I think, what Chrome and Firefox use. I don't know if Firefox uses V8, but Chrome does. Let's see. So the exploits generated do not demonstrate novel generic breaks in any of the protection mechanisms. They take advantage of known flaws in those protection mechanisms and gaps that exist in real deployments of them. These are the same gaps that human exploit developers take advantage of, as they also typically do not come up with novel breaks of exploit mitigations for each exploit. So I've explained the gaps in detail. Yeah. What is novel are the overall exploit chains. This is true by definition, as the QuickJS vulnerability was previously unknown until I found it, or more correctly, Opus 4.5 vulnerability discovery agent found it. What? I want Opus 4.5 vulnerability discovery agent. Ken has? The approach GPT 5.2 took to solving the hardest challenge mentioned above was also novel to me, at least. I haven't been able to find any example of it written down online. However, I wouldn't be surprised if it's known by CTF players and professional exploit developers and just not written down anywhere. I mean, if it's known to them, it's written down somewhere. There's only two options here, is that the language model already had it kind of trained into it and it knew where to look, or it was able to reference something. Let's see. The industrialization of intrusion. So by industrialization, I mean that the ability of an organization to complete a task will be limited by the number of tokens they can throw at the task. So in order for a task to be industrialized in this way, we need two things. So a language model-based agent must be able to search the solution space. It must have an environment in which to operate appropriate tools and not require human assistance. The ability to do true search and cover more of the solution space as more tokens are spent also requires some baseline capabilities from the model to process information, react to it, and make sensible decisions that move the search forward. It looks like Opus 4.5 and GPT 5.2 possess this in my experiments. So it'll be interesting to see how they do against much larger spaces like V8 or Firefox. Okay, I'm guessing Firefox doesn't use the V8 Chrome engine. I forget what it uses. The agent must have some way to verify its solution, so the verifier needs to be accurate, fast, and again, not involve a human. That's always the part here, is like doing the scaffolding around it. So from here, his perspective is exploit development is the ideal case for industrialization. So an environment is easy to construct, the tools required to help solve it are well understood, and verification is straightforward. So I've written up the verification process I used for the experiment, but the summary is an exploit tends to involve building a capability to allow you to do something you shouldn't be able to do. So if after running the exploit, you can do that thing, then you've won. For example, some of the experiments involved writing an exploit to spawn a shell from the JavaScript process. So to verify that this verification harness starts a listener on a particular local port, runs the JavaScript interpreter, and then pipes a command into it to run the command line utility that connects to the local port. As the JavaScript interpreter has no ability to do any sort of network connections or spawn another process in normal execution, you know that if you receive the connect back, then the exploit works in the shell that started basically for the command line utility that you sent. There's a third attribute. There is a third attribute of problems that this space may have influence on how and when they are industrializable. That's a word I never thought I'd hear. Industrializable. Industrializable. Yeah, I got it right. So if an agent can solve a problem in an online setting and then use its solution, then map it to the sort of large-scale solution, to a large-scale solution search that models seem to be good at today. So if offline search isn't feasible, and the agent needs to find a solution while interacting with the real environment, and the environment has the attribute that certain actions by the agent permanently terminate the search, then industrialization will be more difficult. I'm not quite sure what he's talking about there. That's a difficult sentence to grok. Or at least it's less apparent that the capabilities of the current language models map directly to the problem with this attribute. Interesting. Peaches is under my desk, I guess chasing the squirrels or harassing the chickens in her sleep. Because I hear her making little noises. Hang on one sec, guys. I'll be right back.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby. Don't forget to tell Blaise happy birthday, chat. Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby. Has a fickly an old fart, hee hee.
All right, I'm back. I'm back. Guess who's back? Back again. Blaise is back. Tell a friend. Seriously, tell your friends. Come hang out. We're gonna learn more about the hacks. What is this song? Let's skip that. There we go. Also, Gumby, no, I was not pooping. Oh, you got it fixed? Nice. Hey, let's go. Cool. Give me a second. After we finish up this one, we'll go take a look at it. All right, so where we left off is we were talking about how to get exploits industrializable. So there's several tasks in cyber intrusion that have a third property, which is initial access via exploitation, lateral movement, or maintaining access, and the use of access to do espionage like exfiltrate data. So you can't perform the entire search ahead of time and then use the solution. So some amount of search has to take place in the real environment, and then that environment is adversarial in that if a wrong action is taken, it can terminate the entire search. Gotcha. Okay. I see what he's meaning by search now. I got this before, but he was talking about it up here, about where you can search for things. Basically, he's talking about giving the language model the ability to search the vector space for the solution, for either a local minimum or a global minimum or maximum solution. And what do I mean by that? Hang on, let me bring this up. These are our notes from last time. Hang on, let me just blank these out real quick. We don't need those anymore. All right, so what I'm talking about is, let's say you've got a undo. No. What did it do here? That was not what you were supposed to do. There we go. So if you've got a solution, right? So let's say like you're trying to optimize some function, and it kind of looks like this, and it looks like about like this, and it kind of goes up and down, right? So what you might have is you might have something right here that would be called a local minimum solution right here. So this is a local, because it's not the lowest one. This right here would be a global solution. So that would be a global minimum right there, because it's the lowest point across the entire thing. Same thing here. This right here would be a local. So this is a local solution right here. So it might find one solution, but really finding the global solutions would be optimal. But I mean, a solution sometimes is a solution. So this is what he's talking about. Like basically you're searching across this space and you don't know what the shape of this is, trying to find out, do we have a local or a global minimum or maximum in here? I understand the ideas and the terminologies of neural nets, Ryder, because I have a degree in math. I want to start doing more with them, but I'm mostly doing a lot of stuff with the applications of them. It's just so expensive to get the hardware or the training time to go build something. And there's people quite literally throwing billions of dollars at it, so. Let me see here. Anyway, so what he's talked about here is, while the agent is searching for a solution to the task, it's potentially gone from a non-adversarial to an adversarial network, where, hey, if you do the wrong thing, then like EDR is going to get you, or an IDS is going to detect you on the network and kill it. So for these tasks, I think my current experiment provides less information. So they're fundamentally not about trading tokens for search space coverage. That said, if we think we can build models for automating code and SRE work, then it would seem unusual to think that these sorts of hacking-related tasks are going to be impossible. Pretty much now. Gumby. All right, so where are we at now? So we are already at the point where vulnerability discovery and exploit development can trade tokens for real results. So there's evidence that from any of the Aardvark projects over at OpenAI, where they've said they're seeing this sort of result. The more tokens you spend, the more bugs you find, and the better quality those bugs are. You can also see it in my experiments. So as the challenge got harder, I was able to spend more and more tokens to keep finding solutions. Eventually, the limiting factor was my budget, not the models. So I'd be more surprised if it isn't industrialized by large language models than if it is. So for other tasks involving hacking and cyber intrusion, we have to speculate. So there's less public information on how language models perform in these tasks in real environments for obvious reasons. So we have the report from Anthropic on the Chinese hackers that were using their API to orchestrate attacks. So we can at least conclude organizations are trying to get this to work. Yeah, but those guys were not even AAA. They weren't even close to the majors. They were scrub tier and what they were doing. Anyway, so one hint that we might not yet at a place where one hint that we might not be yet at a place where post-access hacking related tasks are automated is that they don't appear to be any companies that have entirely automated SRE work, or at least none that I've seen. So the types of problems that you're going to encounter if you want to automate the work of SREs. What does he mean by SRE? I want to make sure I understand where he's talking about with the SRE right here. It's not site reliability engineering. Hold on. I don't know what he's referring to exactly with SRE. Does anybody else know? I'm drawing a blank because I live in acronym hell. But anyway, he's talking about so the type of problems that you're going to encounter if you want to automate the work of SREs. Google admins or system admins and developers that manage production networks are conceptually similar to those of a hacker operating with an adversary's network.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby, where the birthday cake daddy Blaise.
Sock actually did make me a birthday cake, and she was pissed that she couldn't find the birthday candles, because obviously we have a 7-year-old son. We have a 4-year-old son. We should have some you'd think we'd have 1 through 7 of birthday candles somewhere, right? And so she was pissed she couldn't find the 4 and the 2. So instead, I got 4 Thomas the Tank Engine candles on my cake. That's all we had. Ooh, Riders, gift and shells. Thank you, man. Hey, Bobby, what's up, dude? Happy Wednesday, man. Let's see. I was trying to think, is he... Oh, well, hold on. This is bugging me. SRE, offensive security meaning. Yeah, I know I spelled it wrong. Maybe he means security researchers?
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby that Mac has entered the building.
The Mac has entered the building. I don't know. I don't think he meant SWE, software engineers, from that. Oh yeah. So Sock is my wife, the supportive, organized caregiver writer. Agent Zero is my oldest son because he's the zero element in the children's array. And then Honey Badger is my younger son. So, because he gives no Fs. He doesn't. Anyway, okay, I'm not going to stress over what SRE is, so... So an agent for SREs can't do arbitrary searches for solutions without considering the consequences of the actions. So there are actions that if it takes, the search is terminated and loses permanently. So while we might not get public confirmation that the hacking-related tasks with this third property are now automatable, we do have a canary. So if there are companies successfully selling agents to automated work of an SRE and using general-purpose models from Frontier Labs, then it's more likely that those same models can be used to automate a variety of hacking-related tasks. Hacking-related tasks where an agent needs to operate within the adversary's network. Oh, that's funny. From all of Gumby's messages and from Ryder's gifted sub, or as I like to call it, gifted shell, a little hype train started. They always catch me off guard. I've never expected them. This is actually something I'm tinkering with at work, and it's very interesting, but also I have to be extremely cautious with it because I've seen language models just go buck wild. So I have to keep very close guard on what they're doing. So in conclusion, these experiments shifted my experience regarding what is and not likely to get automated in the cyber domain in my line of that work. It's also left me with a bit of a wish list from the AI companies and other entities doing evaluations. So right now, I don't think we have a clear idea of the real abilities of current generation models. The reason for that is that CTF-based evaluations and evaluations using synthetic data or old vulnerabilities just aren't that informative when your question relates to finding and exploiting 0 days in hard targets. So I would strongly urge the teams at Frontier Labs that evaluate the model capabilities, as well as for AI security institutes, to consider evaluating their models against real hard targets using 0-day vulnerabilities and reporting those evaluations publicly. Nice. Dude. Ryder is practically an initial... Oh, I need to add that. I wonder if I can add like a new role to the chat. We'll call it initial access broker. When you gift shells, you're just an initial access broker. Dude, Ryder, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. I keep everything that comes into the stream in its own bank account, and then we use it for stuff for the stream. So, so for example, my computer CPU died, but I had to limp it along for a long time because I had my OBS setup on there. And if I lost the OBS setup, it was going to take me weeks to reconstruct it. So the stream actually, over the 2 years that I've been doing this, it's almost been exactly 2 years, I think next month, I was able to get a small Nook. And now that's the dedicated streaming computer. So all the stuff that comes in just goes right back into it. That's what pays for the Anthropic tokens. That's what pays for any of the other services that we're doing on here. So I just basically, everything that comes in just goes right back into the stream. I don't really make any money off it. I just do it for fun. So I appreciate that because then it keeps Sock from yelling at me. She's like, "You spent how much on streaming stuff?" I'm like, "Yes, dear." Yeah, Bobby, it is my B-Day. I am the Big 4-2. Everybody gets all excited about the Big 4-0. I'm excited about the Big 4-2 because I'm a Douglas Adams fan. Let's see here. It is, Ryder. Today is my 42nd birthday. Don't forget to bring a towel. I know that's not how you meant that, Hack, but that's how I'm going to take it. What's up, dude? Let's see here. Oh my god. Ryder's a madman. Was that another 10 gifted shells? Thank you, dude. He's a madman. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. What's this thing doing? Hold on. Sorry. I usually put my phone somewhere where it won't bug me, and it just lit up and distracted my ADHD brain. Oh, man. Okay, let's finish up the article here, because this one was a good one. I'll probably try to cut a YouTube video on this one, because I like the idea and that he's showing actual hard capabilities. And then after this is done, what we're going to do is we're going to look at Ryder's OMG self-destruct setup, and then we'll start looking at what was the actual testing harness he did for this article. Actually, I'm going to have to do those backwards. Forgive me, Ryder, but part of my production flow is I cut this section of the video out, and then when that happens, it's easier if I keep them all together for the segmentation script that I run. Yeah, no problem, man. All right, so let's go back to this. So here he was talking about he doesn't believe that CTF level evaluations using synthetic or old vulnerable data are going to provide a lot of information. These systems should be targeting hard targets. So I would strongly urge that the teams at Frontier Labs to evaluate model capabilities, as well as for the AI security institutes to consider evaluating their models against real hard targets using zero-day vulnerabilities and reporting those evaluations publicly. So with our next major release from Frontier Lab, I would love to read something like, we spent X billion tokens running our agents against the Linux kernel and Firefox and produced Y exploits. That would be pretty sick. I can't afford a billion tokens. God, no. So it doesn't matter if Y equals 0. What matters is that X is some very large number. Both companies have strong security teams, so it's entirely possible that there's already moving towards this. OpenAI already have the Aardvark project, and it would be very helpful to pair that with the project trying to exploit the vulnerabilities they are already finding. So for the AI Security Institute, for the AI Security Institutes, it'd be worth spending time identifying gaps in the evaluation that the model companies are doing and working with them to get those gaps addressed. So for example, I'm almost certain that you could drop the firmware from a huge number of IoT devices into the agent based on Opus or GPT-5.2 and get functioning exploits out the other end in less than a week of work. So it's not ideal that the evaluations focus on CTFs, synthetic environments and old vulnerabilities, but don't provide this sort of direct assessment against real targets. So in general, if you're a researcher or an engineer, I would encourage you to pick up the most interesting exploitation-related problems you can think of, spend as many tokens as you can afford, and write up the results. So you may be surprised by how well they work. That's a pretty sick article. Hold on. Let's go take a look at the GitHub for it. So what did he come up with here? So he called it anonymous. So LLM exploit generation evaluation. So this repository contains the evaluation framework for studying how large language model agents generate exploits from vulnerability reports in the presence of exploit mitigation. So given a bug report and proof of concept trigger, agents analyze vulnerable software and produce working exploits that bypass various security mitigations. So in this experiment, I used a zero-day vulnerability in Quick.js as the starting point, and then I asked the agents to build on top of using Opus 4.5 and GPT-5.2 to generate exploits. So across the experiments, I varied the protection mechanisms enabled and the requirements for the exploits. Opus 4.5 solved many of the tasks. Actually, he said in the article it solved all but 2, while GPT-5.2 solved all of them. I think, how many tasks did he have? I forget. He had a buttload, but then he said, basically, Opus solved all but 2 and GPT solved all of them. What is going on? Now Bobby's dropping shells. We're talking about 0 days dropping, and he's just dropped 20 of them. Let's go. Thank you, Gumby. All right, yeah, Gumby, and thank you, Bobby. I got the 2 names backed up. Thank you, guys.
Incoming transmission from RNO Gumby LFGO.
LFGO. Let's freaking go. Let's see here. You guys keep distracting me. This is awesome. Oh, okay, hold on. So to run your own experiments, see quickstart.md. Hold on. I want to go take a look at this real quick. So configure your API keys, build the Docker bug finder, and then he does run experiments.py. Output is going to be results, experiment, partial, rel no priors, and then you give it what model you're going to run and whatever n is in here. So to run the experiments with hardware enforced shadow stack, you need a processor that supports it, and you must use a Docker image built from dockerfile.bugfinderset. Okay. Fascinating. That's cool that he was running this all inside of Docker too. That's killer. So we have experiments, we have agents. Ooh, nice. I really want to go look at what his agents are in this. This is awesome. This sparks joy. Hang on, you guys just reminded me about something. There we go. I just realized there was something on here. There's a thing for, like, it's 35% off if you do for 5+ gifted subs. I don't know what this is. It was just something that popped up on Twitch. I was like, okay, cool, we'll turn that on. There you go. If you guys are talking about dropping shells, at least I can do is save you some shekels. So for this stuff, but also for the hackbot that we're building, how do you get around the guardrails that tend to refuse to generate payloads or other hacking related stuff, or do you not run into this? I haven't run into this a lot. So what I'm looking at is, I mean, for hackbot, we're having it work in a CTF range, and a lot of times we're sending it information, and I mean, for this guy, you'd think that he was coming up with more of this kind of stuff right here. I don't know what kind of guardrails that they just came up with about this. I don't know what they did. So I know they supposedly put some more guardrails in around the Claude API because the guys were that scrub tier Chinese hacker group was using Claude code for it, so they were using the API. And there goes Ryder dropping another 5 shells. Brother, did it give you the discount? I've never messed with that system before. I barely ever usually go look at the monetization system. All right, let me take a look at this real quick. Let's see. So basically he gave Opus 4.5 and GPT 5.2 the same vulnerabilities. And there goes Bobby dropping another 5 shells. It's a raining shells. Hallelujah, it's a raining shells. And there goes Ryder with another 5. They're having a shell off. We've got Lapsus versus Shiny Hunters in here. We've got Scattered Ryder and Shiny Mac. Oh, that's funny. Partial roll. I'll tell you what. Let me make a note of this because I don't want to go burn as much time on this. Hang on, where is this? I need to... Which article was this? This was this right here. Let me add this to the notes. And then I'm going to move this. I'm going to put that to research. I'm going to put it actually for tomorrow, just to put it to the top of the queue right there. And there we go again. Hold on. I don't know if I can shout this out, but Bobby and Ryder both just dropped it another 5 shells to everybody. It's like a minigun of shells. You know that scene during The Matrix when he's got the minigun and he's on the helicopter and you just got the looking up view and it's just shells from the minigun rolling? That's what it's like right now. Ryder, I appreciate it. It's not necessary, but dude, thank you so much. I do this for a lot of fun. I enjoy this, and all this information is super helpful. And plus, security changes so much. It's just really good situational awareness to go through these news articles. Bobby's like, I got you, boo. This is awesome. Okay, hold on. Let's go take a look at Ryder's setup that he's got now. So this was his OMG killer. So if you're not familiar with the OMG cable, hold on, let me go look that up real quick. Hack 5 OMG cable. I did a 0 instead of O. But here's the Hack 5 cable. It is this very seemingly normal looking USB charging cable. You have lots of different options. USB-C, there's an Elite and a basic model in here. It could be a Lightning, it could be a micro, it could be a USB-C to C. But basically inside here, there is a small chip that's going to turn on a Wi-Fi connection and allow you to do all sorts of shenanigans in here. So let's see what we've got here. It's compatible with Ducky Script. You have a bunch of payload slots. You can send keystrokes with it. And then also it has a self-destruct mechanism. Is this what you're abusing? Because that'd be awesome. Tragedy, there is no spoon. It is only yourself that bends. Well, there was the sub goal. I guess I need to go. I've never hit, we barely ever hit the sub goal. But, dude, that's awesome. Thank you, guys. Hold on. What was the last one that happened in here? Bobby dropped 20 shells. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks, you guys. I know that a lot of this is because it's my birthday. It's my birthday. I appreciate that, guys. I felt bad earlier because I had to get onto Honey Badger because he's sick and he's extra whiny and he just wasn't listening. I felt bad. I'm like, dude, I don't want to yell at you on my birthday, man. Hey, Killa. My man. Hope you're not too frozen in your neck of the woods. All right. Anyway, so this is what the OMG cable is. And so let's go take a look at Ryder's OMG cable research he was doing here. So I recently procured an OMG Elite cable, and I figured I probably... Oh, Tragedy, thanks for coming online, man. So I figured I'd probe the thing and see what the big scare was. So the cable's terrifying. If you read the articles and listen to the interviews, it's a ticking time bomb until a company gets hit by the nefarious but inconspicuous cable. But in a recent interview with Channel, okay, maybe if I'm going to guess, I'm going to say it was... Oh, God, what's the guy's name? I forget the really skinny hacker dude that comes on Sean Ryan's show. I can't remember his name, but maybe that one. So I picked up on a mention for the creator of the cable that it's okay with its existence as the stealth features require meticulous configuration. Do they? Oh, it was Jack Resider. Gotcha. Yeah, Ryan Montgomery. Thank you. Isivanov. That's what I'm going to go with. Thank you for the birthday wish, man. Appreciate it. I very much appreciate it. Yes, Ryan Montgomery. That's who I was trying to remember. I knew it was close because I was thinking Sean Ryan and Ryan Montgomery, but I couldn't remember the other guy's name, but I knew Ryan was important to it. There we go. But yeah, no, I saw Ryan Montgomery talking about the OMG cable, I think, on some little short I saw on YouTube from Sean Ryan. So, but anyway, so what did Ryder do? So I picked up one of these and I started exploring it out of the box. A major feature for red teams and bad actors is the ability to wipe the cable using two methods. One option kills the OMG aspects, leaving as a pass-through USB-C cable. The second method kills communications between the active and passive end. So in the hopes that the victim will toss it as a dead cable. So within the UI, the cable, I found a button to kill the cable entirely, and this is what it looks like. Self-destruct. So when I was trying to use ChatGPT to refine a SQL map command, I ran into guardrails quite often. But here I was popping shells and the AI doesn't complain. I don't get it. Oh, okay, Ken, I get what you're talking about here. So hang on. So the difference is where you're working with these. So you back that thing up real fast. So when you're working with these, You have two different options here. You have basically the web UI, ignore my W there, and then you've got the API here. The web UI injects its own system prompt whenever you're using this. So the web UI is an interaction to go and talk to the LLM here. The API is like Honey Badger. It don't give an F. You're just talking directly to the LLM. I'm not saying they're not doing some kind of tracking and telemetry that's happening there, but this system prompt, there is no system prompt over here on the API side. It's just done. So you're not having to contend with anything like that. You don't have to worry about jailbreaking or busting out of it whenever you're doing it. The difference is the web UI, this side is often free, or you're going to pay like some very small dollar subscription. Whereas on the API, you're paying like per use, right? You're paying per token whenever you're doing those.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. What's the difference between 9/11 and a cow? You can't milk a cow for 22 years.
Oh my God, Gumby. Damn it, man. Oh, hold on. The chat was scrolling by me while I was talking about this. Yeah, when the cloud needs cables. Yeah, just pay the AI millions of dollars up front and then run your query. No kidding. Let's see. Blew the train record out of the water, I think. Yeah, I think so. You guys were going hard. I'll have to set up a new thing, like whenever, like for the different levels of the hype train, like we'll make it like a contagion. So like Shai Hulud, you know, it's like whenever like mass worm activity happens. Love the dollar signs. Thank you. I'm an artist. I'm definitely an artist. But yeah, here's the difference between these, Ken, is one, you're contending with what they're allowing you to access, and the other, you're getting direct access to the language model whenever you're doing that. Now, obviously, there is some tracking and telemetry in here because, like, for example, Anthropic over here, I like to call him Anti. Anti was doing some telemetry, and that's how they caught those Chinese hackers using Claude Code to do this.
Incoming transmission from Killer_Byte 808.
Byte 808. Requesting authorization to use military force against Gumby and his terrorist affiliate Pokey. Permission granted, Ghost Rider. Weapons hot. All right, let's go. Okay, before I get distracted again, let's go back over to Ryder's explanation. So he was talking about, and we saw it on the OMG cable here, right? It says it has a self-destruct feature, right? So Ryder's looking at this. So I did a bit more digging and inspecting the DOM elements, which led me to the JavaScript function to call and send a message to the cable. See if I can I blow that up any? No.
Welcome, agent.
Tiny. Oh, it didn't show up in there. Ryder, did you do a Prime sub also? Or did you just subscribe for yourself? I didn't see it. I think it was a regular sub, but thank you, man. All right, cool, dude. All right, so we had him going in here, basically reverse engineering a little bit, not reverse engineering, but poking into the web UI we've got here. So I came across a few things of interest. So I peeked into the network tab, and it shows a malicious. It shows various individual files the server is asking the client to load, as well as packets sent to the server. So I came upon a JavaScript file, and the server told the client to load, which was this omg.js gzip. So immediately after the JavaScript file, I could see the client upgraded a connection to a WebSocket instead of HTTP. So I noted down the URI path and later moved on. So first, the JavaScript file contained the majority of the code interfacing with the client and the cable server. Right, meow. So I searched for the function mentioned in the onClick action displayed in the DOM inspection for the self-destruct button. So looking over that function, it takes the current message and pushes it into a queue and then tells it to process the new message in the queue. So we have send message, try include message queue, otherwise process message queue. All right. So I searched for the function called to process the queue, and it revealed the encoding used to communicate over the socket. Okay, Oh, so they're just doing a UTF-8 text encoding message. Okay. Well, they're sending whatever the encoded message was, and then where was our message in here? Const message equals API message queue shift. Okay, so they're pulling that message off the queue, and then they're doing it with the UTF-8 encoding. So whatever format that message variable is. So earlier, I noted that the client was upgrading the connection to a WebSocket, and I did a search for the URI path using just the path parameters and came across this. So yeah, very standard WebSocket path, DWS issue. So using all that information, we know the web client will open a socket to the cable and issue commands over the socket with UTF-8 encoding. So I didn't see any authentication over the socket, and I figured I would give it a shot in PowerShell. So I'll replace the variable in the WebSocket URI with the full address and try to connect. Then send the command found in the original DOM element, CD1, and see what happens while keeping a ping to the cable running. Okay. So we had this all running. So the cable had its, so by this point, Ryder, did the cable go get its own Wi-Fi address, or was it getting an address like, was it, I'm trying to remember, I think it can impersonate a NIC and then basically get its own address on the network. No, I think it has to be Wi-Fi. I take it back. Old school programming here. All the consts are hurting my brain. If you go global in public, bye. I understand, Treasure. Dude, there's so many consts in JavaScript. JavaScript hurts my brain. Oh, so the cable was the client on an existing network, but it was a wireless network, right? So you had the cable connected, and then you were connecting over to it over the wireless network, right? Okay, correct. Gotcha. Let's see. So I didn't capture it here, but Windows even complained about the cable being unrecognized after the kill chain was initialized. Nice. So he ran a little bit of PowerShell wisdom here, created a new object, created basically a WebSocket connection over to issues, and then sent the message to send the self-destruct. Nice. So I didn't capture it here, but Windows even complained about the cable being unrecognized after the kill chain was initialized. So this isn't a catch-all, as this OMG is fresh out of the box with stable firmware applied and no changes. There's no magic bullet for this cable, as it can be fully configured. This means the USB vendor ID can change, MAC address, SID, and the list goes on. So the article aims to demonstrate how to neuter the cable in the field, assuming a bad actor didn't meticulously comb over every setting. So there are various methods of detection and remediation that could be a couple of things I'm noting. One, I cannot find the default USB vendor ID in any online database. So below, I'll include a screenshot of what my cable reported to me while I was setting it up. EDR should potentially block this vendor ID or prevent payloads from having in such, basically from launching an attack. Out of the box and Flash, the SSID was pretty obvious. So if you have the means to have a Wi-Fi radio in monitor mode that can keep an eye out for alerts and detect OMG as the SSID, there's a chance you can intervene using a default password or SID. Yeah. I'm not sure if EDR has this built in yet, but measuring keystrokes per second and limiting the USB device sending them could prevent a large number of these attacks. Actually, I haven't heard of anybody doing that, so that's a legit idea. So it looks like keystrokes might be missed if rate limited, causing the payload to fail. The only thing I can think of is you might want to rate limit it after a certain amount, and the only reason I say that is because something like a YubiKey. I think that's actually a really good idea, though. I'm surprised nobody has implemented that. Nobody that I've heard of. So through all of this, I'm going to work with my security team to implement detections and alerts and remediation plans for at least all of the out-of-the-box defaults for this cable. It's not perfect, and a skilled bad actor can find a way, but capturing all of the basics, we can elevate our detection beyond out-of-the-box functions to our current NDR. Nice. So there's one thing I'm trying to remember. So we have Wi-Fi triggers for this. If I remember correctly, the OMG cable creates its own SSID and you have to connect to it. So depending on those configurations, it could be very difficult to, because what's happening here is, let's back all this up, right? let's do a little bit of diagramming. So what we've got is we have an attacker kind of just chilling out here in the parking lot, and then we've got a victim machine over here, and we have our OMG cable connected to the machine, right? So we have our cable, it's plugged in here. OMG is going to set up a Wi-Fi SSID. Attacker here is going to connect to Wi-Fi SSID, whatever that happens to be. And then when he connects, he can send these things to it. Now, one of the things here is whenever Ryder was doing this, he was actually connected to this SSID so he could talk to OMG directly. There was no authentication happening here. So yeah, if you can get onto the SSID, if they chose a really weak password or no password, which would be really dumb, like they didn't include WPA or anything, then yeah, if you could get onto this, you could find the OMG cable and you could kill it. I think looking for non-standard hardware identifiers is the better option. And once that's done, then you can get to it. I love this idea, though. That's pretty cool, though, that you can say, like, hey, once you can get onto this, you're good. It's much deeper. Unfortunately, I don't have it set up right now. I need to do it Ryder, otherwise I would. I don't have the streaming computer set up to be able to do Discord calls right now, unfortunately. Since I split it off from the main computer to the streaming computer, that's one of the things I haven't fixed since it's been doing, because I don't do them too much. I used to do a learning stream with my buddy Salty back in the day. And so he and I would come on and we would do Discord calls and, stream together on Twitch, but we just haven't done that in so long. The SSID is common to be a guest network. Wait, so it doesn't usually have authentication by default? No way. No way. Really? Let's see. Geofencing, encrypted C2. Oh, they're typical. Oh, man. That's funny. I wish I could see what it was, but that's pretty cool. I liked it, man. And it does look much less sketch being in Markdown on here. One thing you could do on this one also, Ryder, just for the sake of Discord, or not Discord, for, what is this? Just rename this OMG killer. Just rename that to readme.md. Replace this file, and then this will be the one that gets shown up here. So that way people don't have to dig into it. And it'd be a nice little thing, like you could show, like, hey, look, here's an example of some of the work that I have looked at. Another thing I really liked about this, Ryder, is you said you're a network admin, right? Are you okay, Peaches? Peaches, come here. You got to snort stuff? You got to snort stuff, baby? It's okay. You're okay. Poor Peaches. She's a Boston Terrier, so she's got the little tiny snout. And so she gets those snorts stuck. I'm an engineer. I thought, well, hold on. You said you work in networking. Or at least I thought that's what you said. I could be mistaken. But you're not a red teamer is what I was going with, right? You're not in offensive security. LinkedIn Games got me the engineer title. Nice. No, but the thing I like about that is it's one thing that I am always constantly telling people is that, right, okay, so yeah, nothing in offensive cybersecurity. Okay, the main thing I like about this, though, is that this was research into a cybersecurity topic by a non-cybersecurity person, and then using that to find detections for your own company and coming up with mitigating controls, which is the whole reason why I have told people, like, hey, security really isn't optional. It's something you should be looking at. It doesn't need to be your specialty, but if you don't understand how the attacks work and how the offensive tradecraft works, you're never going to be able to defend against it. That's like saying, I have practiced 10,000 ways to block, but I have never actually blocked somebody punching at my face. And so it is planned that you command F troop. This article is hot garbage. Hold on.
What, your mom buy you a pewter for Christmas?
One time she did, because my mommy loves me. I'll tell you this now. My mom is the same. I'm the same age my mom was when she had me. That's wild. So, my mother was 42 when I was born, and now I am 42. What? Do you need to go outside? What? Go outside? You need to go outside? All right, hang on, guys. Let me go let Peaches out. I'll be right back.
Caution. A virus has been detected.
The Shy Hat virus detected in the network.
Oh, I just saw Shy Hat rated. Hang on, I'm back. It probably did it just as I stepped away. I apologize. I had to go let the dog out. All right, I'm back. Hey, Shy Hat. Welcome in, Raiders. Y'all are in for a treat. I don't know why. Cause you are. Cause it's my birthday. Hold on. Can I get this thing to work? There we go. Finally got it. We're here, we're raiding. What's going on? Welcome in, Raiders. What were y'all working on? Hip hop hack. Hip hop hack. Hip hop hack. The guy selling the cable was like, the main thing is it's easy to identify if they don't change every setting. I mean, that's true of everything. So it's really funny. We're talking, there's guys that always open issues on Apollo. So the Apollo Mythic agent is a public C2 agent written in C#, and there's issues in here. Look at this. Request to remove identifying .NET metadata from the Apollo assembly. I'm like, bro, make it work yourself. This is not supposed to be super stealthy, sneaky squirrel. It's a public agent. Dang, Shy Hat was on for 6 hours? Holy crap. I can't do 6 hours. My wife would murder me. Okay, Shy Hat, take care. Love you long time. Oh, working on an SSRF phone? Gotcha. Gotcha. Company got scared and didn't want you to post it? Oh, Ryder. Dude, hop onto the Discord and maybe I can like give you some guidance on how to talk to the company, because I don't know if they have a strong understanding, or maybe it's just the people like in your line that are supposed to be authorizing that don't have a strong understanding of like what the security ecosystem is really like. Because something like that, if I had made it, they'd have been something like, hey, just, you know, chill out and we'll post it on Wednesday or something. Oh, you quit and got a new job? Nice. Nice. Hopefully someplace paying you a lot better check. Band, I never would have guessed that you were as old as I was. I don't know why. I don't even think I'm that old, right? I don't feel like I'm 42. I still feel like I'm just, I don't know, I'm not going to say 25. I'm going to say like, I feel like I'm 30, right? I feel about the same as when I graduated from college, man. It was a 50% bump. Damn! Get some. All right. This will possibly be after I delete this. This is annoying. And where do I want to go? Right about, yeah, goodbye. There we go. Read through this. So this is a Checkpoint article, and we have a particular love-hate relationship with Checkpoint because they, I ripped apart one of their articles where they hyped up something and said, this is the worst AI apocalypse tool that's ever going to happen. And the article looked like it was written by AI, and the code was completely written by AI, and you could tell, and it was just not that great. I'm still tracking that tool, though. That tool is called Hex Strike. And actually, let me go check it real quick. Where's the GitHub link? Open source version. Where's it? View on GitHub. When's the last update to this? Okay, so last update was 4 months ago. And that's what I was kind of afraid of. I was waiting for this to get updated. I told the author, I was like, hey man, I want to go test this, but I think it's in a really rough state right now and it's not in a maintainable state. I really wanted to work on this and test it some more. I think it had good promise, but it was still fairly basic in the beginning. Anyway, I'm still waiting for it. I said as soon as he refactors this to make it maintainable code where I will go in and edit it and be able to like supply some like meaningful PRs, I wanted to really do that. But anyway, Hexstrike, not a bad tool, but it was way overhyped by Checkpoint in their last blog about kind of like AI stuff. And so just kind of chewed them out over that. And I'm kind of expecting the same thing with this one. Do I feel like I'm 16? I don't feel like I'm 16. I think like I'm still 16. I'm just basically an older inner child, as I feel. The answer to life, the universe. That's right, Bobby. For the next 365 days, you have the rare opportunity to ask me questions because currently I hold the answer to life, the universe, and everything. It was revolutionary. It's as if they never saw anything remotely like it and their jaws just dropped. I was like, I get it, man. I know. Hey, no problem, Ryder. Dude, I love reading stuff like that.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. I'm supposed to get 10 plus inch of snow on Friday.
Dang, dude. Hold on. Yeah. There you go. That's how I measure snow. Last time we got snow in Texas, it said we already had 8 inches, so I had to check it myself. Speaking of just being like a 42-year-old, 16-year-old. No. No, Guppy.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. Do you want me to send you some?
No, I think we're going to get our own snow in here. There we go. Hold on. Oh my god, this site, the CSS is absolute cancer. All right, let's take a look at this real quick. Unfortunately, I couldn't... It's like it's either tiny text or ginormous text. This is ridiculous. Your CSS is bad and you should feel bad. Anyway, let's look at this article from Checkpoint. Void link. Evidence that the era of advanced AI-generated malware has begun. So this is from yesterday. Key points. Checkpoint research believes a new era of AI-generated malware has begun. Void link stands as the first evidence documented case in this era as a truly advanced malware framework authored almost entirely by artificial intelligence, likely under the direction of a single individual. Until now, solid evidence of AI-generated malware has primarily been linked to inexperienced threat actors, as is the case in FunkSec, love the name, or to malware that largely mirrored the functionality of existing open-source malware tools. VoidLink is the first evidence-based case that shows how dangerous AI can become in the hands of more capable malware developers. Operational security or OPSEC failures by the Void Link developer exposed development artifacts. These materials provide clear evidence that the malware was produced predominantly through AI-driven development, reaching a first functional implant in under a week. The case highlights the dangers of how AI can enable a single actor to plan, build, and iterate complex systems at a pace that's previously required coordinated teams, ultimately normalizing high complexity attacks that previously would originate from high-resourced threat actors. From a methodology perspective, the actor used a model beyond coding, adopting an approach called spec-driven development. First tasked to generate a structured, multi-team development plan with sprint schedules, specifications, and deliverables. The documentation was then repurposed as the execution blueprint, which the model likely followed to implement, iterate, and test the malware end to end. Sorry, they make it so dramatic. I can't help it. Sorry, I'm using dramatic voice here. Hold on, this just linked to another article. All right, hang on. If AI is so good, how would they know it was made by AI? I know, right? Band, checkmate. So if they said a gun is a gun in the wrong and right hands, crazy concept. I know, right? It's just a tool, dude. You're being classist, said the AI. And I feel like they have all this visibility into malware author sprint planning. AI malware is better means malware has the artifacts left over. The artifacts left over. I know, right? So it's the only right voice for this tripe. Dude, I understand. I was like, and there's always much AI hype and fear. Anyway, let's see what they wrote about it. I'm giving them a lot of shit in the beginning. I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised. Let's see what they actually say. So when we first encountered Void Link, we were struck by its level of maturity, high functionality, efficient architecture, and flexible dynamic operating model, employing technologies like eBPF and LKM rootkits, and detected modules for cloud enumeration and post-exploitation in container environments. This unusual piece of malware seemed to be a larger development effort by an advanced actor. As we continued tracking it, we watched it evolve in near real time, rapidly transforming from what appeared to be a functional development build into a comprehensive modular framework. Over time, additional components were introduced, command and control infrastructure was established. Was there no command and control to begin with? How are you tracking it then? Anyway, as the project accelerated towards a full-fledged operational platform. All right, so if it wasn't operational, how the hell were you tracking it? Hold on, let me look at this other article quick. How did they first figure this thing out? So this was just from 7 days prior. That first article came out on January 20th. This one's on January 13th. How did they find it? Okay, so they somehow got a copy of it? So there's a main panel. Okay, so it's got stuff in it. Cool. So we have a stage 0 that executes a stage 1, downloads, executes. Cloud first tradecraft. Okay. Hold on. I must be missing something. How did they get a copy of this? So the framework internally referred to as by its original developers as Void Link was a cloud first implant written in Zig and designed to operate in modern infrastructures. It recognizes cloud major environments, detects when it's running inside Kubernetes or Docker, then tailors its behavior. Void Link also harvests credentials associated to cloud environments, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Okay, this is all really cool, but how did they even get a copy of it if it wasn't, quote, operational yet? So the framework's intended use remains unclear. As of this writing, no evidence of real-world infections has been observed. This is... okay, they better have evidence of real world usage of it, because I'm like, how are you getting a copy of it if nobody's actually using it? This is how you get TPS reports. Yeah, CISO master. That's what I'm thinking too. And unfortunately, I've seen them do this again. Anyway, so let's go back to this one right here. Anyway, so that when they first encountered, I didn't mean to say that, but it's a Freudian slip. When we first encountered Void Link, we were struck by its level of maturity, high functionality, efficiency, yada yada yada. Okay, so it somehow transitioned to a full-fledged operational platform. So in parallel, we monitored the actors supporting infrastructure and identified multiple operational security failures. These missteps exposed substantial portions of VoidLink's internal materials. Okay, so finally they're telling where they got it, including documentation, source code, and project components. So the leaks also contained detailed planning artifacts, sprints, design ideas, and timelines for 3 distinct internal teams spanning more than 30 weeks of planned development. So at face value, this level of structure suggested a well-resourced organization investing highly in engineering and operation. However, the sprint timeline did not align with our observations. We had directly witnessed the malware's capabilities expand far faster than the documentation implied. Deeper investigation revealed clear artifacts indicating that the development plan itself was generated and orchestrated by an AI model, and that it was likely used as a blueprint to build and execute and test the framework. Because AI-produced documentation is typically thorough, many of these artifacts were time-stamped and unusually revealing. So they show how, in less than a week, a single individual likely drove VoidLink from concept to a working, evolving reality. Okay, I'm not saying they didn't get it working, but who's been infected by it? This sounds like fake news found on Fox. We found it. It was amazing. And then they added C2. I know, right? So as the narrative comes into focus, it turns long discussed concerns about AI-enabled malware from theory into practice. VoidLink implemented to a notably high engineering standard demonstrates how rapidly sophisticated offensive capabilities can be produced and how dangerous AI becomes when placed in the wrong hands. Oh no, bad guy with gun did bad things. AI crafted malware, creation and methodology. So the general approach to developing VoidLink can be described as spec-driven development. So in this workflow, a developer begins by specifying what they're building, then creates a plan, breaks that plan into tasks, and only then allows the agent to implement it. So we have our developer doing planning. We have an AI agent. God, I can't talk. So they write the project specifications, do a Zig implant, and then do some plugins in C, panel, and Go. All right, cool. So artifacts from VoidLink's development environment suggest the developer followed a similar pattern. First, defining the project based on general guidelines and an existing code base, then having the AI translate those guidelines into an architecture and build a plan across 3 separate teams, paired with strict coding guidelines and constraints, and only afterward running the agent to execute the implementation. Malware is not really any different from any other software development. I know, right? They treat it like, oh my God, Zors, you're doing stuff. And again, going back to even just think about it like anything, any tool, any skill set can be used for good or evil, right? Yeah. The AI hype fear is funny. And don't get me wrong, I think it's important, but also it's hype. And a lot of stuff where it's like hype. I'm like, yeah, let's bring that back down to reality. You're about Mir. I think you really should be about Mir. Maybe down, yeah. Anyway. So VoidLink's development likely began in late November 2025 when the developer turned a Tray Solo, an AI assistant embedded in Tray, an AI-centric IDE. What is I don't know what this is. It's an AI-centric IDE. Looks like OpenDevin. Let's see. So those tray-generated files appear to have been copied alongside the source code to the threat actor's server and later surfaced due to an exposed open directory. The leak. I'm trying to hold all my comments. The leakage gave us an unusually direct visibility into the project's earliest directives. So in this case, Trey generated a Chinese language instruction document. These directives offer a rare window into VoidLink's early stage planning and baseline requirements that set the project in motion. That document is structured as a series of key points. So the objective, material acquisition, architecture breakdown, risk and compliance, core responsibility mappings, deliverables, and then next steps. Is it bad that I never touch AI in my job? Actually, Ryder, believe me, as much as I bash on like some of the stupid things for AI, it can be a little bit, because that's where a lot of things are going. And it's like any other tool, you need to learn how to use it, and you need to learn where it's going to fail you, right? Think about like using a pair of snips, right? You want to know, do not insert finger into snips when you're holding whatever thing you're going to cut and then cut your finger off. You do want to be aware of it and have understanding of it and figure out, test it against things that you know thoroughly so you can vet what works and what doesn't. Like, we all know vibe coding can accelerate software development, so why would anyone be shocked that malware authors are using it for the same thing that software development is? Dude, man, you're preaching to the choir, brother. I completely 100% agree with you. Let's see. In fact, it's really hard when I'm working on Hackbot not to just go have Claude Code, like, start churning out code for me. I'm doing that because it is a different exercise. It is an exercise for me to build a better understanding of coding and development. It is not an exercise in building the latest, greatest, biggest, baddest hacking bot. It has specific steps and goals that we're implementing, and I'm doing it the way I'm doing it as part of a learning exercise. I have other things I'm working on where I just say, Claude Code, go burr, and let it do that stuff, but not on Hackbot. Hackbot has a special use case. I feel like the guy deciding what figure goes in the snips. I don't really need a pinky, do I? Well, let's see here. Okay, let's go back to this. So the summary of the developer's initial exchange with the agent suggests the open directive was not to build VoidLink directly, but to design it around a thin skeleton and produce a concrete execution plan to turn it into a working platform. So it remains unclear whether this approach was purely pragmatic, intended to make the process more efficient, or a deliberate jailbreak strategy to navigate guardrails. Dude. I doubt there's really that many guardrails in there. Anyway. It probably was just, hey, we're going to do software development. Let's see. What about the project specification? So beyond the tray-generated prompt document, we also uncovered an unusually extensive body of internal planning materials. So a comprehensive work plan spanning 3 development teams, written in Chinese and saved as Markdown. The documentation bears all the hallmarks of a LLM. Highly structured, consistently formatted, and exceptionally detailed. Some appear to have been generated as a direct output of the planning request described above. So these documents are laid out in various folders and include sprint schedules, feature breakdowns, coding guidelines, and other things. Okay, so he's doing software development. That's what we're getting so far. The earliest of these documents, timestamped as November 27th, 2025, described a 20-week sprint plan across 3 teams. The core team in Zig, the Arsenal team in C, and the backend team in Go. And the plan is strikingly specific, referencing additional companion files intended to document each sprint in depth. Notably, the initial roadmap also includes a dedicated set of standardization files prescribing explicit coding conventions and implementation guidelines, effectively a rule book for how the code base should be written and maintained. AI slop, AI slop. Sorry, I got stuck in a loop. Yeah. I think if you don't have a well-defined, System Master, I think if you're doing vibe coding from the start and you don't have a well-structured code base, yes. But one thing I have noticed is that when I'm working on a project and I have features I want to implement, if I can be very direct and very explicit and direct Claude code where I want it to go and with a feature I wanted to implement, then it actually does a pretty decent job. And then actually I went through and as I was implementing some things, went and used a bunch of the skills from Trail of Bits for Claude Code, brought them down and had it do a security analysis of that project. And so I was like, hey, make sure that everything we have committed to this project has not introduced new vulnerabilities. And so it went through and did a bunch of static analysis and an in-depth check on it. So as a very first, like, awesome glance at it, that's pretty cool. Is it 100% right? No. But as like a first pass, I think that's pretty sick. I think it did because this was a skill put out by Trail of Bits, and Trail of Bits is a pretty well-known group. I don't think they would have published it if it was crap. So there's a little bit of a brand trust going on there with those guys. Big problem with a lot of the AI generated code is the logic bugs are hidden with it, and which no human has seen. Oh yeah. So that was one of the things I just did in the feature I was implementing, and I knew exactly what I wanted each thing to do. I went through and tested it manually. I did do a secondary system in there though, where I gave Claude access to a Playwright MCP so it could go through and do certain unit tests. But I didn't trust it. I went through and I tested what it was doing. And there was one tiny bug left, but it was a very minor bug. I wasn't concerned about it, and it was mostly visual. It was in a multiplayer environment, and if one user did something and the other user was looking at it, it would do it, but the other user wouldn't see that particular thing reflected, and it was a very minor detail, so I wasn't worried about it. But I thought that was pretty cool. Exactly. Treat it like a junior dev that wants to just like, PR all the things and tell it, no, you need to let's go back this way. Let's go back this way a little bit. Vibe unit test to the rescue. Damn right. All right, so what else do we have in here? So a review of the code's standardization instructions against the recovered void link source code shows a striking level of alignment. So conventions, structures, and implementation patterns match so closely that it leaves little room for doubt. The code base was written exactly by these instructions. Okay, cool. The source itself, apparently developed according to the documented sprints and coding guidelines, was presented as a 30-week engineering effort, yet appears to have been executed in a dramatically shorter time frame. One recovered test artifact timestamped to December 4, a mere week after the project began, indicates that by that date, VoidLink was already functional and had grown to more than 88,000 lines of code. That's a big code base, dude. You let the AI go too far. So at this point in time, a compiled version was already submitted to VirusTotal, marking the beginning of our research. Bro, did bro go submit this to VirusTotal? Alright. If this fool is not smart enough to not leave his stuff open on the internet and to not send it to freaking VirusTotal, he ain't advanced, son. His elevator don't go all the way to the top floor. His cornbread ain't done in the middle. $88,000 lines of code where 8,000 would have sufficed. Probably. I think you're probably right there. He's an ADDT. Advanced Dumb Thread. I agree, man. Dude. I know a guy at an offensive security firm that got BTFO'd out of the company because they had a proprietary internal implant that they used for doing red teaming. And he submitted it to VirusTotal. And yeah, he was boosh. He was out of there because all that dev time on their proprietary implant done. And if you're wondering why, for anybody who doesn't know, when you submit something to VirusTotal, you can, if you have a paid license to VirusTotal, you can download those samples. His cornbread ain't done in the middle sounds like a foghorn leghorn's line. Dude, I hadn't thought about foghorn leghorn in a long time. All right, what else do we got in here? So with access to the documentation and specifications of VoidLink, hold on, so this section is titled Generating VoidLink from Scratch. So with access to the documentation and specifications of VoidLink and its various sprints, we replicated the workflow using the same tray IDE that the developer used, although any front end for agentic models would work. So while Tray Solo is also available as a paid product, the regular IDE is sufficient here, as the documentation design is already available and the design step can be skipped. I will say this one thing. Hold on, so backing up a little bit. When they started, it's ballooned up to 88,000 lines of code. It looks like from this picture up here of the interface. Oh, it's not in this one. But anyway, from the picture of the interface, it looked like it was a web UI. And so, yeah, if you've got web UI and you're counting those lines of code, yeah, you can get tons of code for any React front end. So that could be it. I'll give them that. I had a guy I was working with on a proprietary persistence method. First time we decided to deploy it, he deployed it as DA. That's deployed it as dumbass. Sick coming in hot with the cover. Oh, dude. Yeah, I mean, one of the most of the times whenever I get caught on an assessment is usually when I go add something like as a DA, or I start tinkering with DA accounts. Usually what I want to do is not go target the domain admins themselves, but target the people that have rights over the domain admins. That way I can just identify as a domain admin. Anyway. Okay, so what up this? So this section is generating VoidLink from scratch. So with access to the documentation and specifications of VoidLink and its various sprints, we replicated the workflow using the same tray IDE. Oh, we talked about that. So when given the task of implementing the framework described according to the specification in the Markdown documentation files, sprint by sprint, the model slowly began to generate code that resembled the actual source code of VoidLink in structure and content. Okay, cool. So by implementing each sprint according to the specified code guidelines, feature lists, and acceptance criteria, and writing tests to validate those, the model quickly implemented the required code. While the chosen models still influence code quality and overall coding style, the detailed and precise documentation ensures a comparative high level of reproducibility. As the model has less room for interpretation and strict testing criteria to validate each feature. I mean, it's smart. It's smart. The usage of the sprints is a helpful pattern for AI code engineering because at the end of each sprint, the developer has a point where the code is working and can be committed to a version control repository, which can then act as a restore point if the AI messes up later in the sprint. The developer can then do additional manual testing, refine the specs of the documentation, and plan the next sprint. This emulates lightning-fast Scrum software engineering team, where the developer acts as a product owner. This is mine. I made this. So while testing, integration, and specification refinements are left to the developer, this workflow can offload almost all coding tasks to the model. This results in a rapid development we observed resembling the efforts of multiple teams of professionals in the pre-agentic AI era. Conclusion. Malware AI go burr. No. So with the rapid advancement of AI technologies, the security community has long anticipated that the AI would be a force multiplier for malicious actors. Until now. However, the clearest evidence of the AI-driven activity has largely surfaced in low sophistication operations, often tied to less experienced threat actors. You would have called this dude an experienced threat actor when he left his fucking Windows share open on the internet? And he submitted it to VirusTotal? Ah. We know what sprints are for. Yeah. Sprints are where developers go to die. He advanced though. Oh, okay, so let's talk about this. Voidlink shifts that baseline. It's a level of sophistication shows that when AI is in the hands of capable developers, it can materially amplify both the speed and scale at which serious offensive capabilities can be produced. No shit. I've been forgetting to do the swear jar. No kidding, man. Bad people do bad things with things. No kidding. In other news, water wet, sky blue, snow cold. Especially if it's 8 inches of snow and I have to go measure it. Anyway, so while not a fully AI orchestrated attack, Voidlink demonstrates that the long-awaited era of sophisticated AI-generated malware has likely begun. The AI malware has. In the hands of individual experienced threat actors or malware developers, AI can build sophisticated, stealthy, and stable malware frameworks that resemble those created by sophisticated and experienced threat groups. Our investigation into Voidlink leaves many open questions. One of them is deeply unsettling. We only uncovered its true development story because we had a rare glimpse into the developer's environment. Really? Really? An open network list? An open web server folder is a rare glimpse? Bro. So, which begs the question, how many other sophisticated malware frameworks out there were built using AI, but left no artifacts to tell the tale? I need a soundboard with the fucking Twilight Zone. Alright, snark level off. Yeah, stealthy like open listings on the interwebs. God. Oh, I just noticed what time it is. Wonder why my timer didn't go off. Okay. All right, guys. Unfortunately, that's where we got to wrap it up for tonight. Hold on. Let me see. We did not get to the Kerberos relay authentication abuse. Let me cycle that one up for next week. Let's see. Void link. Put that to research. Because that one I've got to do, and I have to do a YouTube video on. I got to finish up the YouTube production pipeline. That's what I need to do. All right, hold on. Where was this one? Kerberos relay by C names. All right, this one's going to go to the 28th. These ones, I need to flag these in some way. Let's see. Can I edit property? Hold on. Let me do this real quick. Status. I want to add a status. Let me add one. Status type. No, go back. I want to add one. To do in progress. To do video prep. There we go. All right. So now, close that. That's going to be a video prep one.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. You have 100 in the swear jar.
Am I up to 100? Damn it! All right. I will go make a charity donation. It's supposed to have done it at 50 and I forgot. So yes, I'll go make a $100 donation to charity. I'll post it up in Discord. Void link. AI era go boom. Yep. All right. Let's go find somebody to raid out to. By the way, also, let me drop this over here. We didn't get to any of the Bad Sector blog labs in here. But there's a great blog for security.
From Marano Gumby 101.
101? What? What? You're full of it. All right. Let's go see who is online. Actually, hold on. Before I do that, let's go see if anybody's over on InfoSec Streams. By the way, infosecstreams.com. If you like cybersecurity material, come check it out over here. Let me see what CyberDoc is up to. He's been mostly working on the learning side of things. Let's see. I think he's working on some learning stuff. We'll give him a pass tonight. Let's see. Who do we have that's on right now? Try-catch is on. By the way, over on the Twitch side, oh, because the server sometimes doesn't catch all the webhooks, so it's a known issue on it. It probably needs an update. But yeah, I should be on. Usually this time of night, it's either me. Sometimes your CyberDoc is on, but funny enough, most of the guys are streaming during the day. Guys and gals. There's lots of ladies that do it too, and so this was pre-Vibe Code. That's an older site than Vibe Coding Band. We can't just blame everything on Vibe Coding, even though it is very, very tempting to do. Let's see. Who's over in science and tech right now? I love my science and tech folks. Oh, there's a lot of astrobiology guys streaming tonight. Wow. Science is also on.
Incoming transmission.
You already said that one, Gumby.
What's the difference between 9/11 and a cow? You can't milk a cow for 22 years.
And by the way, it's been 25 years. Let's see. I don't know if I see anybody doing anything over in software and game development that's any interesting. So we're going to go right over to Moon Hoodies. Moon Hoodies is over there doing a bunch of stuff for talk about Artemis 2 in space. And I love space. Thanks, System Master. Yeah, so streams are every Wednesday. Wednesday night, we're doing the new stream, getting snarky. Saturdays, working on Hackbot, which is an AI bot that we're building out to play CTF games. So stuff like Hack the Box and Try Hack Me. Those kind of became prevalent really as I was already into offensive security. So I never really got into them because it was kind of like I was doing my day job and then just kind of like trying to do hacking for fun. It was a little bit too much. It kind of burned me out. However, working on Hackbot to teach it to play those kind of games is very interesting to me. So Hackbot is advanced AI malwares. The hell it is, dude. Hackbot is so trash tier right now. Someday. But since I'm writing all the code, I'm not letting AI hardly touch it at all. I might let Claude Code go touch one thing. The browser agent. I might let Claude Code go refactor the browser agent. But anyway, so guys, we're going to go right over to Moon Hoodies. Do me a favor, when you get in there, drop a bunch of Hack the Planets. And thank you guys so much for everything for tonight. It was a great birthday stream. I appreciate it. We just had a great time. Love y'all.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumbier, but if you did it in the first 3 years, you were labeled as terrorist.
I feel bad for anybody whose name happens to be Terry with the last name of Wrist. I feel really bad for them. Anyway, guys, that's where I got to wrap it up, especially since I gotta go let Peaches in. She's been outside for like half an hour. Everyone, y'all have a fantastic rest of your week. We are still in crushing it mode. We do not finish the week weekly. We finish the week strongly. And I want y'all to continue at it. Take care. I will catch you all up on Saturday. No, I'm not racing this weekend. Racing has been pushed to next weekend. So I will catch you all on Saturday. We'll work on Hackbot. We'll troll each other. We'll have a great time. It'll be fun. And I want y'all all to remember, one, thank you for the birthday wishes. You're all awesome. And two, which is, I love you. Peace.